It's a quiet night in the city of Balic. A strange silt haze clogs much of the sky, blotting out the stars. Through the wind and sandy fog, the light of Ral and Guthay, the two moons of Athas, provide dim light on the city streets below. Lamps and candles and shuttered homes and windows, businesses provide just a little more glow for the streets. The poor folk who cannot afford a home find alleyways and other places to build makeshift shelters for themselves. In the less policed parts of the city, they create spontaneous communities that come to life at night, where they look out for each other and fill the night with sorrowful music, jokes, laughter, community, dreaming of a more hopeful tomorrow. Tomorrow. Tomorrow in Balic is the Grand Garden Gala, an event that comes just once every decade, promising new blood will challenge for positions in the government's Praetor ranks. No one dreams of the gala's promise more than those who have so little to lose. There are no gods in Athas, but people still pray when they're desperate, when they need hope. Sometimes it's just to the elements, sometimes it's to the ancestors, sometimes it's to the two moons, Ral and Guthay, that change will come. What does it matter, though, if the moons are not in the business of answering one's prayers? And so it is tonight. Merula. Though it's a quiet night, there's that sound of distant singing. You can hear just a chorus of laughter rise and then fall again. And the few folks you pass by on the street seem to buzz with a sort of reserved optimism. You even see a couple of smiles. They don't know what you know, though, that there is something very wrong in Balic, a mystery. You leave behind Praetor Rysar's home, though your friend, a little blackbird, remains outside, watching. Now you find yourself alone for the first time in the course of most of the day, on the street, with your thoughts. And that's where I'd like to begin tonight. I want to know, for Merula, what are they thinking and what are they doing as they walk down the street and leave behind the Praetor's home?
I'm still a little shaky. Something about being near Praetor Rysar just... I mean, we all know perfectly well that there was something untoward in his basement, but I'm not sure if the others really know, well, the sort of thing that I know. The sort of thing I saw in the tower. But I suppose today I'm not exactly bloodless myself. It's not really a comfortable feeling, and I move almost like a cat trying to get away from their own tail, trying to get away from the rest of the day.
As you're moving back through the streets, is there a specific place that you're going?
Home. I want to go home. And Father made me promise I would not stay out late and skip supper.
You wander eastward, eventually to turn to the south, but first to the east. And roll me a perception check.
19.
I think there's a moment maybe where as you're turning down a corner and there's this large storefront window with several lamps hanging out the window lit and cast this light directly down onto you. As you turn this corner, you happen to glance down and you can see for a moment that there's still there's blood on you. It's dried at this point. It's stained. And in catching that blood comes a feeling as well. The feeling that you're being watched. Maybe you're not alone here.
I'd like to speed up just a little bit, maybe take an alley or two. Lose whoever it is, perhaps spot the tail, circle back if I can.
Absolutely.
Maybe I was trying to get away from my own tail.
Roll me a stealth check. You move quickly through a section of the city that you actually know fairly well, and in that way, perhaps it's a little fortuitous. You find yourself circling around, and for the moment, Merula, you're there in this little dirty alleyway. You can see a fire, a street fire, off on one of the side alleyways. You can hear the murmurings of a couple individuals over there, but it's dark here. And as you slip into the shadows, you look up and there it is. It's that crumbling watchtower, that ruin that looks over the sea, the one where you first saw what Praetor Rysar was capable of. The one that you know because it's where your friend Van, the young urchin boy who came into contact with Rysar, often stays.
I remember there were some things still up there. I have a bit of time. And I suppose rhyming with that first time, I procrastinate up just a touch, and I'm going to take a look up the tower.
Do you climb up the side on those vines that kind of stretch along one half of the tower, or do you climb through the rubble, the ruins of the door, and go up the stairs on the inside?
I think this time I'll take the stairs. There's only so much I can tolerate of likeness like that.
You have to duck down through just like a hanging portion of the wall that's kind of crumbled in and squeezed through. It's darker inside. Do you have any means to provide yourself light?
No, I'm all right at seeing in low light. You know, half elf. But other than that, I don't think I really have much with me. Oh. I mean, I guess I do. Do you have prestidigitation?
And what does that look like for Merula?
Well, first I have to double check. I don't really do these things too often, so I double check how it's supposed to work, and check against the knotwork that I've learned. And having done that, I twist my bracelet around and snap, and a little piece of tinder that I've held into my hand. A little light.
That warm fire comes up from your palm, and for a moment, as you're casting the spell that's written onto this sort of spell book that you have on your wrist, this knotwork, you feel energy from above you at the top of the tower pass downward into you and channel through you just for a heartbeat. And that energy is what sparks that light, that life. And there's a glow, and your already pretty good vision in the dark is extended, and you can see the crumbling stairs as they spiral upward. You can hear the howling, the whistling of the wind through the cracks in the walls of this old ruin, and through the top where you know that there are two large open windows.
I want to make my way to the top. I actually would like to go on the roof.
Absolutely. You wind your way all the way to the top. You have to push up on a heavy door that just kind of is like a trap door on the top of this roof. You push the door up so that you can get up onto the higher level. And then you can climb out onto the roof as you want. But as you reach the top of the tower, with the earlier perception check you made, I won't make you make another one because you're sort of tuned in and alert right now. You see a pile of clothes in one corner of this room, which is filled with greenery and strange exotic flowers that don't really belong to this region. Some of those flowers are starting to wilt, and just beyond their bed in one corner of this room is a pile of laundry, almost dirty rags that were certainly not here the last time you saw this place.
I go up to them and with the back of my hand, I want to touch them, see if they feel warm, see if they were recently worn, see if someone might have been here not too long ago.
Yeah, they are pretty warm. It's not a science, an exact science, but you just feel it in your gut maybe, and in the clothes that whoever left these here probably did so fairly recently.
Interesting. I don't suppose those clothes... No, those clothes wouldn't be Van's size, would they? Is there anything distinctive about them at all?
They might be a little large for Van, but he was always prone to wearing clothes that were a little larger than his form anyway. So nothing that you've seen. They look I'll tell you what you do find familiar. One of the sets of clothes is much larger than the others, maybe the size of a full-grown man's, a tall man's, and it's much nicer than the others. Something almost noble in terms of the quality of the silk, the colors, the amount of different colors in that particular cloak. It's definitely different than the others, but like the others, it's stained and dirty.
How tall would you say? Really very quite tall? 7 feet, perhaps?
Very tall, yes, and fairly skinny. Not tall like a mole or not tall like a half giant.
Tall like an elf?
Tall like an elf.
I see. Is there anything else I find around here if I do a little bit of investigation?
Yeah, roll me an investigation check.
8.
The only other thing that you notice as you're looking around, and it doesn't, I don't know if it would make sense to you or not, is that there's an area of this garden that Van so carefully tended over time, where some of those flowers have begun to wilt, perhaps through lack of care. There's an area of it that has turned to ash, has decayed entirely. It's dead. It's something like a ring. It forms a ring. About 5 feet in diameter.
I have seen those before. I saw it when we were going past where allegedly those mages attacked Akasha and Kronqual. Allegedly. Are there any gardening supplies or anything? I want to just very quickly weed a little bit of that garden, tend it a little since it's doing poorly, and I know that Van has other priorities now, but someone should look after it, at least a little
Absolutely.
bit.
What you find is just a small basin of dirty water, not wealthy water, and only about half of the basin is left, and an old sort of gardening tool that is rusted, and like just bare bits of metal, mostly bone, and the metal part of it is rusted, and you know that this instrument has been used entirely on its own. So everything that Van has done, he's done with this one tool that's kind of become dull, barely holding together over time, but you recognize it.
Strange. I log all of this away. I don't want to get caught in here. I know what happens. So I'm going to beat feet. But before I do, there's one other thing I want to do. Use prestidigitation one other time for the ability that making a color, small mark, or a symbol appear on an object or surface for 1 hour. Won't last forever, but right by the window that man was pushed out of. I know. I'm going to leave.
You go back down the winding stairs, back to the street below, and there's a cold blast of wind through the chinks in that wall as you're descending. But once you reach the street beyond, it's warm again, a warm night. You can still see that fire sort of blazing in that side street. You can see up above some of that dust, some of that silt fog is starting to clear, and the two moons are starting to shine just a little bit more brightly. You still can't see the stars, though. And as you step back onto the street, you're not sure if he's seen you or not, but there's an old human male. His face is covered by a large hat that he's pulled down over part of his face. He's just got some rags and some sort of walking stick that looks like it's made with a large leg bone of some beast. It's helping him push himself along down the street. He's moving in your direction, but he's not looking up.
If I don't recognize him, I'm going to circumvent and just watch very quickly to see where he goes. You would think I'm being paranoid, but given the day that I've had and given the company that I keep, but then I really do have to get back to supper or I will be flayed.
It's a complicated life you lead. So he continues moving past you back in the direction westward. It would take you kind of back in the direction that you came from, just pushing himself along this stick, this bone that he uses to move. And he's kind of mumbling to himself underneath his breath. He's got a scratchy voice and he coughs a couple of times into his elbow. and then keeps pushing on. But when he gets to the intersection that leads away from this little circular alley, he stumbles and falls to one knee, and his staff strikes the ground. You can see some of the bone chip away at its base. He grumbles to himself and turns it over and tries to push himself up, but he struggles. You can tell that he's struggling to stand.
Never having heard of Ted Bundy, I'm going to go and help him. I'm going to help him up. You all right?
Thank you. Thank you. And he starts to rise with your help, and he turns to you just enough that you can catch the moon hitting him in the face. And you can tell, and I'm not sure if Merula's ever seen it, but certainly they've heard of it. You can tell that he's suffering some form of, it's a specific kind of plague where part of his skin turns bark-like. It's a potentially infectious disease, primarily affects poor folks who can't isolate themselves and have to live in large communities in close quarters, or they live with families where it's a large family in a small house. But you can see that it's covering most of one half of his face as he rises. Thank you.
If I know this sort of disease to any degree, I know that it's infectious but not highly infectious. If this is, yeah. But yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's infectious, but it's not. It's like through contact of broken skin. That's right. The idea. Yeah.
Where are you heading? Can I help you?
Just trying to get some food, get some water. I was staying with some folks, but they won't let me stay there no more.
I don't know any place that's safe. I wish I did. Merula looks around. Dang it. I wish there were. I do know one person, maybe. She's a miracle worker. Maybe she could help.
I'd be mighty obliged if you could help me. But you ain't gotta. I'll make my way on.
I have every faith in your capability, but that doesn't mean we don't need to help each other. Right?
Well, thank you. I mean, this miracle worker, is she nearby?
She's not too terribly far. Her name is Akasha. Have you ever heard of her?
Afraid I haven't, but there's a lot of people I don't know.
I'm the same way. Well, I'm pretty sure we'll all be hearing of her soon, especially after that gala tomorrow. I know roughly where she is, not the secret hovel setup, but I know Akasha's place, yes?
Right, yeah, because Akasha lives in House Sereno, and they have their major mansion. It's on the southwest side of the Agora, so like the southwest side of the Market District. It's actually very close to the road you would take to go up to the Caesar's palace and his gardens. It's a very prominent, wealthy area of town.
she's part of House Sereno. So she'll just be up that way. If you get to their guards, tell them to tell Akasha that Merula sent you for help. She'll know what to do.
Thank you.
I'm going to give him 2 ceramic.
He doesn't take it in his hand, but rather kind of extends his tunic to catch it. He wraps it up and holds it close to his stomach. And gives you a little bit of a smile, the half of his face that is capable of smiling, and he says, "You safe walking around on your own tonight?"
Oh, I'm perfectly safe. It's the rest of the town that should worry.
He half smiles again and says, "I think I believe you."
What's your name?
My name's Amaran.
Amaran. A pleasure.
Likewise. Before I go, if I ever can repay this debt, where can I find you?
I'm up in the Villa district. House Acacia.
Never been there before, but maybe I'll take a walk when I'm feeling better.
I hope so. I hope Akasha can help you. And don't worry about repaying, just... We all have to be kind to each other. The world is tough enough.
Aye. That's the truth. He takes his staff and he kind of points up into the sky with a broken end of it. He's turned it over now. He says, my mother used to tell me this story about how this world used to be much kinder than it is now. Don't know how we lost our way. And she said, all the races of this world, they came here from other worlds. And when they saw this place, beauty, green forests, oceans, how could they not but be happy and take care of each other? Must have been a long time ago, though.
Well, I suppose it's easy to be kind to one another when being kind is easy and when the world is fruitful. It matters a lot more when it isn't.
Ain't that the truth? He nods once and kind of tips that large, oversized hat that he has and looks down the street in the direction that you pointed and kind of catches his breath and says, well, I better be on my way.
You're all right getting there on your own?
Oh, yes, don't you worry. Take my time, but I'll get there.
Be safe, Amaran.
You too, Merula. He coughs into his elbow one more time and begins walking with the help of that staff, that bone, down the street, slowly away, stopping once or twice just to catch his breath before he continues on out of your view.
When he is out of my view, I'm going to bloody run home so fast. I'm so late. F, 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 F.
And so you dart through the city streets in a mad dash. Let's go ahead. This is a good point to cut away. Let's go now to Rysar. And we're going to go back in time a little bit for you, Toby. Rysar, you find yourself in your home, exactly where we left off last session, checking your locks, making sure everything's closed. You'd had guests into your home. And it proved to be more contentious, perhaps, than Rysar had anticipated. And what I'm curious about as we rejoin you now is, with that fire going in your hearth place and you alone, except for what lives in your basement, what is going through Rysar's mind?
He is frustrated. Initially, he is frustrated because he is used to dealing with the patrician class and praetors and nobles and the less fortunate sprawling masses of Balic. He feels he knows how to communicate on the correct level and apply the correct etiquette in his dealings with most people he comes across. And he's not sure if it's because of Akasha's recent strange turns she's been taking. I think this is probably one of the reasons they didn't get on so well at school. He doesn't really know how to take her. So he's frustrated. To the fact where after he's secured his home and made sure that that all of the doors are bolted and he's certain that no one else is inside, and he can't detect any sort of magical influences, he strolls over to a shelf, picks up a ceramic goblet, and he sort of goes to throw it on the floor, but then just stops himself. Has a breath, and then places it back carefully. He goes and puts a log on the hearth, and then sits down at the table and starts to breathe a slow and rhythmic breath in and out. And if it was a scene, then I guess the camera would be behind his head and it would look as though maybe he had fallen asleep or something. And then it would turn to the front and his eyes would be pure black as he had walked into his familiar, a critic lizard, and scurries through the streets of Balic.
And this is sort of like a rat-sized lizard that can climb and scurry up walls and up trees and all over the place. And it goes through trash, and you're looking through the eyes. You can feel dirt and rubble, dust, silt beneath your little feet. And you're moving through the streets trying to keep up with anyone in particular? Are you going somewhere specific?
Yes, I am going to be following Merula.
And I think there's a period of time where Merula, they're moving down a main street and it's easy to follow them. But there comes a point in this, again, very quiet night where they turn a corner and for a moment they're gone. And as you kind of scurry forward and turn the corner too, roll me a perception check.
Thought it was a nat 20. It's a 9 on the dice. Now, I use the familiars stats, don't I? It's not going to be... what was the stealth? 21. It's not going to be that.
I believe in Dark Sun. Let me double check. Let me pull this up. I'm pretty sure that it's your... that if you're trained in perception, you add that to the lizard stats for Dark Sun. In either case, I don't think it's quite enough with a 9 on the die, because it was a 20. I think it was like a 21 stealth roll.
Yeah.
So you almost, like, you think you see them turning another corner, and then you scurry to that corner and look down, and they're gone. And you know this is the edge of the maze. This is the edge of the slums that lead to the harbor district, where streets twist and turn into each other. And it's called the maze for a reason. It's very easy to get lost there.
I know it well. Well, I would like the critic lizard to try and pursue Merula, but if that's impossible, then it will come back to the house.
We kind of fudge with familiars too, because I think familiars are more fun if they don't have that like 100-foot range, right? Because 100 feet's nothing. So I like the idea that the critic lizard's continuing to move through the maze and search, and you have some time as it's searching. I'll allow you to make one more roll, but is there anything else Rysar wants to do in his home before then?
There's quite a lot Rysar wants to do. Yes, well, Rysar's going to be sort of jotting down notes, and it's notes for a speech for the Great Garden Gala. And he's always going to be sort of writing them down in note form, scribbled in Elven, and look at it, think about it, chuck it on the fire, do it again, think about it, maybe tweak some bits, throw it on the fire. So he'll be committing a speech to memory, but it'll be quite ad-libbed, but he'll be working on it. He'll also be meditating to regain his spells for the night, and also tweaking those. And actually, I don't know in the mechanics for meditating. I know you can do arcane recovery, and you can also do a long rest. But if you want to change a spell, can you rest for a shorter period in order to change one spell, or do you need a long rest to change any of them?
So are you taking a long rest right now, or is this a short rest? Because as an elf, it's like 4-hour.
Yeah, they
rest, right?
Yeah, they have an ability called. They do have an ability.
Yeah, they do. So the question, I guess, is: Are you intending to spend 4 hours in your home, sort of meditating and?
Well, I want to know. I want to know if there's a way I can learn one spell differently, which I don't have, or would I need to wait the whole 4 hours to do that?
Yeah, so you would need to prepare a spell. To prepare your spells for the next day, you have to wait the full 4 hours.
Okay, yes, I will be doing that at some point, but I'm probably not going to do that yet, because I'm in the lizard and speech writing and slightly agitated, although I'm trying to get through that.
go ahead and roll me one more perception check.
It went from a 20 to a 2.
Oh no. Right on the edge.
Literally, I'm just chasing my tail.
Yeah. Here's what I like to imagine is that maybe the critic lizard, as it's darting through different areas of the maze, and it's going past people and through groups that are either out there socializing or out there because they live there. It never comes across Merula, but it does at some point come across an old man with this sort of bark plague over half of his face, large oversized hat, and just helping himself slowly down the street towards the market district with the help of a bone staff.
I think the lizard will just pause in a pile of rubbish in the darkness and take note of the old man. Because at the moment, Rysar sees all old human males in sort of robes as potential scion assassins. And if the lizard cannot find Merula, then I want to send it to the house of Sereno. That's Akasha's house, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Unless House Akasha is much closer, in which case it would go there. But it wants to check in on them and see if it sees one of them heading back, or if they're both just off and out about in the city tonight.
So that's a good question for Cord. We won't cut over just yet, maybe here in a second. But would Kronqual be going back to House Sereno with Akasha tonight, or does he have plans to go elsewhere?
I think he's going to be wandering. He will make his way back because I think Akasha would be leading him there. But I think on the way, if the camera follows, he's very interested in the nightlife of Balic, and he's thinking a lot about the last events back at the house. So he seems restless. But he'll be heading back towards the hovel.
So I think Rysar, you and this old man who is also heading in the direction of House Sereno, your critic lizard, happens upon Kronqual, but not Lady Akasha. And Kronqual moving away from House Sereno back towards the market in the opposite direction. You see him there on the street, just as Cord said, kind of wandering, looking about, interested in everything around him.
And Akasha is not in sight.
No, and Cord, you would know that Akasha returned to her actual house, House Sereno, which is this large, opulent mansion on the southwest side of the market.
Now, this I find very interesting because Rysar's interest was piqued when Akasha mentioned, or Kronqual mentioned, a hovel. So the lizard is definitely going to switch tacts and follow Kronqual.
I imagine he turns around and reverses in the middle of the street, following behind. Roll me, Toby, dexterity roll with your lizard. Stealth is if it has stealth. Roll stealth.
Does it have advantage or anything?
That's a good question. I don't know what Kronqual's eyesight is. Do you have dark vision as a total?
Let's
see.
No.
Okay. Yeah, we'll give you advantage on this. And Kronqual, give me a perception check.
That's above a 10. That's
Well, this
good
is going to be
news.
close because I rolled an 11. What was
17.
my check?
Or, I'm sorry, 16.
Oh, 16. So it's a stealth or just dexterity if your lizard doesn't have stealth.
I have these lizard stats somewhere, and I've got a critic lizard. Oh, I've just got critic lizard, usually
Oh, that's okay.
hidden among my robes.
I can pull it up for you. Let's see. It is
In my journal.
plus 2 is what you'll get to your roll.
Oh, so 13. So that's not great.
Okay.
So that doesn't beat yours.
Is that with your advantage?
I got a 1 on the first one. That's why I asked on.
It's going so well. Okay. Let's cut over for a second then to Kronqual, and you can follow him, continue to follow him. But I think Kronqual, as you're leaving, moving back towards the hovel on the poorer side of the market district through the streets. Like I mentioned for Merula, you witness a lot of people giving you strange stares usually, but tonight, for some reason, people just feel a little more friendly to you. You actually get a couple of smiles on your face or on their faces as they're passing you by. Still the kind of curious look, but nobody's harassing you. And it's a quiet night, but there's music drifting over the top of the shantytown area of Balic. It's just a gentle kind of sound. And when this silt fog moves away and you can see the moons, it's a warm, comfortable night. And as you're wandering away, looking around Kronqual, I just want to know what's going through Kronqual's mind with everything that's happened and he's experienced. What's he thinking or feeling right now?
I think Kronqual is feeling a bit unease. That's the first time the events at Rysar's home, the first time that we've had any sort of sparks between the party, between his new friends. So he's feeling uncomfortable. It's kind of like when mom and dad fight, and you have everybody in the house is kind of just on edge, right? And it's kind of like that the wave has crashed, and now our emotions are kind of draining into the pools of where they need to before we can relax. And I think that's where he is, and that's probably why he's so like on alert. I think he is and so restless right now is because maybe his heart's beating a bit, and he's emotionally adjusting to everything, as well as still being overstimulated by the city that he's never been in. I think that's I think he's looking around and using his explorer gene, being a turtle, to try to use that as a bit of like his exploration therapy, where he's just like where he wants to look and see what there is in this city. He's not tired yet. He would be, but maybe it was the like I said, the high energy, or his heart racing a bit, or also maybe it was that small because he did a short rest, I think, in Ed Rysar's home to recover a bit. So I think that he is I think that he's restless. He's walking around. He's restless. He's trying to think. His mind crawls over the thoughts of these people who attacked them earlier, and he also tries to make sense of everything, but he can't still get over Kailantes saying that there is an academy, and also Rysar saying there's an academy known as the Cerebrin, who do a series of tests upon entry if they are to, if one is to learn from them. So I think that that is what he is. Everything that he's thinking about comes back to this academy, this temple known as the Cerebran, and why they would attack them, or why. I think the best way and the best answer that he can come up with, if that is the Cerebran, is that they're testing him. They may know.
Your mind flying around all over the place.
Yeah.
There's always those flashes, those images of not the men or the figures beneath those robes with the Cerebran's lidless eye on the back of their hoods, but the beasts they appeared to be, how they took or appeared to take the form of a Phalar, this great four-armed ape with like an open skull and a throbbing brain, and then there's that giant snake. And those images are very vivid, and it's a type of, even though you're not trained, you're not trained like the folks at the Cerebran are, who studied the will and the way their entire lives. You are adept, and that level of psionics, or that style of psionics, I think would definitely be unseen. It's not something that Kronqual would have seen before, almost alien. And as you're wandering the streets and passing by people, just for a moment, you happen to look down and you see behind you this little critic lizard just scurrying around, and it stops in the trash and looks up at you. And I like to think like its little tongue flickers out of its mouth a few times and then sucks back into its mouth. And just for a moment, as you look down at this lizard, those images of those astral forms that those attackers took flash back in your head again.
I think he goes to say hello to the creature, as if he does to most living things in Balic. And I think he's caught by the image of the flickering. I believe one of them was a reptilian creature. It was like a serpent, right? One of the creatures,
like a large snake.
Yeah. So I think that flashes back. Maybe it like looks up and flickers, and in that flicker, I think the flicker of his tongue also flickers the image of that memory. And I think he kind of steps back a bit, and then starts to ponder about. I think that may be the leading into the Cerebran thoughts about what they're doing, why this aggressive form of the way is being taught by such an academy, if only it is to test. I think he thinks about it a lot. He thinks about what the lidless eye means on their cloak. He thinks about the white maybe looks in a canvas or a curtain of white flaps in the breeze, and maybe that flicks to the cloaks that were stalking him in the streets before. And I think for a moment, or as a couple of these moments happen, I think he starts finding his way walking towards a sect of the city that he's never been to. And if there's anyone around, I think Kronqual would ask them. I would like to at least get their attention.
Yeah, let's say that. So a couple of things. First, Toby, do you continue to follow? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll let you kind of role play too. If you want your lizard to do anything in particular, I'll let you play your lizard for this scene. Kronqual, as you're wandering further into the market district, off in a new direction, you turn a corner and you see an old man in a large floppy hat struggling to get down the street. His face is covered by the wide brim of that hat. But he's moving in your direction as you're moving in his.
Hello.
He tips his hat.
I am Kronqual. Kronqual is I. I have a question, if I may.
He slowly looks up, and as he does, and the moonlight catches his eyes and kind of glimmers, reflects off of his dark colored eyes, see that old human man, except for he's got these strange discolored sections of his face, looks almost like tree bark. Over half of his face, and you can see some on his hands as well. And he coughs a little bit and looks up to you with a little bit of surprise in his eyes as he finally sees you fully
Catches focus,
standing there. Yeah.
I was wondering if you knew of an academy where the way is taught. I believe it's known as the Cerebrum.
Well, Master, you've got a long way to walk. It's up on the northwest side of the city, the Guilders district. Never been there myself. Tried to look in a few times, but you can't really look into that place.
What do you mean? I do not wish to look inside. I wish to walk inside.
As he enjoys the joke he thinks he made.
He gives you a long look. You can't tell if he's smiling or if he's having a moment of pain. He coughs again into his elbow and he says, "Well, I wish you the best of luck with that. Perhaps you could answer me a question, friend."
Okay, I can, friend.
I'm going to House Sereno. I've heard it's this way, and I'm looking for someone who can help me.
I have an answer that could benefit you, yes. Behind me, if you were to walk along the path I've tread, and then take a left. At that fork there will be a banner. Take a right, and then another left after the third window, and then you will press on for about 7 blocks, and then take another right, and you will be there.
You can see
As
his
he recalls
eyes kind
with
of
such
flickering.
detail.
so much detail. His eyes are bouncing back and forth, keeping track of the directions as you're giving them, and his head's bobbing up and down, that hat bobbing with it. And he says, "Thank you. I heard there's a lady there named Akasha, who's a miracle worker. She might be able to help me with my condition."
She is a miracle worker from what I hear. Yes, she is a friend of mine. Tell her Kronqual, which is I, sent you.
Kronqual. Yeah.
Yes.
Strange night. Strange night.
It has been. Fare thee well, friend. I must make my way to the northwest center of the city, this direction. Yes?
Oh, well,
Points
yes,
to a direction.
all the way up to the top, north side of the city. Just walk along the docks, that western road, You take it to the wall. Take it all the way to the wall. You'll see it.
Right.
Hard to miss. Tallest structures in the entire city.
Ooh,
Besides the Caesar's home, of course.
of course. Thank you. What is your name?
Oh, my name's Amaran, Master. And you can see that he's holding out his left palm. His hands are shaking a little bit, just a little bit towards you. Palm straight up into the air.
And he puts his webbed hand on top of the palm and grips it firmly. And then lets go and walks away.
Good to meet you.
Looks, follows you with his eyes, confused for a moment. And then half of his face, the half that can actually smile, turns up into a smile, and he says, "Good to meet you too, Kronqual."
As he groans over his shoulder, as he makes his way with his staff slowly tracking by him.
You can hear the rap, rap, rap of his staff going the opposite direction, in the direction that you gave him. He turns left, and then you can't hear that staff anymore. And you're free to move through the city. Are you going anywhere? Are you following his directions? Or are you going somewhere else?
Yes, I believe he will continue. Very excited, actually.
I think he's got a little bit of pep in his waddle now. Now that he actually knows where he's going.
And Toby, you see through your lizard's eyes all of this. And he's heading off north towards the harbor, towards the docks, and eventually around to the Gilders district, to the Cerebrin. Toby, what's Rysar doing at this point?
I think the lizard will be following Kronqual, and after that, it was going to do something else, but after that, it's just going to follow at a distance, scurrying around, being a lizard of Balic, and watch what Kronqual does. And Kronqual, does Kronqual look like he has any food on him?
He doesn't look like he has food on him, but he may have a satchel tucked under, or a fold or two tucked into his into the hide that he wears around his waist, rations of sorts. But he hasn't picked at it since he's been to Balic.
I think the lizard might try and sort of scurry up and sort of look at Kronqual now and then, a bit quizzically. Have a little sniff with its tongue, in fact.
Ooh. Hello.
As he tries to, like, gently pick up this this lizard from the pouch.
You are curious, aren't you?
And he kind of just holds, as I picture it, just kind of like weaving itself in the palm. And he reaches, I guess in front of him, he can't reach around his shell. He reaches around in front of him and tries to fumble for a bit for some rations, and he pulls out some dried fruit and some spiky shelled nuts, and he cracks them and just sprinkles the debris onto his palm.
There you go.
I think if the lizard it would eat some sort of quite quickly, just gobble it down. Although it was quite nervous at being picked up, it would definitely just get stuck in on the food. And then I think because it's hilarious, it might, after it's had its fill, just sort of scurry up, if Kronqual allows it, scurry up Kronqual's arm and then just sort of sit on the back of the shell.
Very well, you can stay there. I'm going for a bit of a walk. I hope you
I think
don't mind.
if it's the end of the day, then I'm imagining the shell will be radiating quite a bit of heat, which the
Yeah.
lizard will love, much like a cat.
Yeah, it's in the whole day of sun
by
baking it.
fire. And it will probably just make itself comfy up there and maybe even start to doze off.
Nice.
I love it. So here's my final question. We'll come back to Kronqual and the Cerebrin, but in the meantime, for Rysar, does he continue to watch through this lizard's eyes this entire trip, or does he get to a point where he's seen enough and he has other business to attend to?
He does have other business to attend to, and he knows the Cerebrum is a long way. And he's happy with the lizard just being there for a while. So I am going to, first of all, after I've been doing the speech practice, Rysar will take, it's quite unceremoniously stashed behind his wardrobe, or in the back of his wardrobe, actually. He goes and takes out a scabbard, and in the scabbard is an elven long blade. And he starts, it would look quite peculiar to watch on, but he begins to practice certain katas or moves with the sword whilst practicing parts of his speech for tomorrow. And the reasoning behind this is that he is concerned, due to the tip-off that Merula acquired, that there will be combat as well as words exchanged at the Great Garden Gala. So he is practicing for both, and he's got a lot to do tomorrow. So, excuse me. I'm just going to check. Would now be a good time to go and visit High Praetor Zathiri, or is it too late for that?
So the High Praetor's office will remain open throughout the night. Whether or not she's present, you can only go and see. But there's a good chance, because High Praetor Zathiri is the High Praetor of public safety. And so all of the praetors who are in charge of specific neighborhoods, if there's a crime or something that needs to be reported at a higher level, hers is the office that they would typically go through. So she's, unlike most high praetors, available throughout the night when crime is oftentimes more frequent, especially the sort of worse crimes, the kinds that might actually require her and her office's aid.
So considering my recent experiences, I'm, after practicing for a little while, I'm going to sling the blade over my shoulder and take it with me. And I'm going to leave Can I do a 4-hour and then go, or would it certainly be closed then? What do I think?
Well, sundown happened shortly. It happened shortly before everyone arrived to your house, your home. So it's still, it's fairly early in the evening. It's not evening, it's definitely night, but it's early night, let's say. So 4 hours, you'd be going, basically after midnight. Could still be available.
Rysar's too paranoid. He's going to meditate for 4 hours before leaving his house.
All right. He is preparing different spells as he meditates.
Most
I just want to know briefly, like, what does that look like for Rysar? How does Rysar prepare his spells and meditate?
So he'll sit in a lotus position in front of his fire, and he'll have a small cup of water, not too much water in it, because in the desert you never get too much water. A small amount of time, and he'll focus on the flames, and in the flames he'll be taken back to his desert home, where his tribe of elves, the Moon Chasers, live, and he used to live and was brought up. And he will see in the heat of the flames and the orange and red, he will see the oranges of the sand and the heat of the desert. And it will be in that meditative trance that he'll be remembering and learning his spells to use for the coming day. And he'll catch glimpses of the day to come in the flames. He'll see things that might happen and might not.
Yeah, go ahead and roll for that, and you can mark it yourself. As you're meditating, is it a good one? You don't have to tell me. You can keep it a secret if you want.
Oh,
but you don't have to.
You have to tell me though.
Oh, yeah. Look, you're not going to believe me. I'm going to tell you right now. I got the best possible rolls you can possibly get as a diviner. First, I rolled a 1, and then I rolled a 20.
It's a good day for tomorrow. What you've seen, it's this game. I'm the one who is cursed. You were all blessed.
They're my best rolls of the night.
And
I'm so pleased I got them.
Oh, yeah. It's the two of us. Anyways, as you're staring into the fire and meditating, you get this flame sort of dancing and taking shape, and the smoke sort of taking shape and then fading away. It's never anything exact. It's always somewhat interpretive, but you see the coiling of wisps of smoke that remind you of that serpent several times. And you also see in the fire, deep in the fire, an outline, a shadow. Roll me an insight check. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I don't know what happened there. It was a 19 on the dice, so 21, I believe, because I have +2.
You can tell by the way it moves and the shape, the shell, the 3 spindly antennas, that the shape you see deep in the fire is the shape of the Gaj. It's the shape of the beast that you saw the Criterion same day, earlier that day. When you were with everyone else, fighting a band clutch of Thrycreen, monster that is owned by House Jarko and is used in the gladiator arenas. And you see that deep in the fire, and then it fades too. Those are all the things.
Sorry. Oh, also I cheated. I only have +1, so it's a dirty 20, not 21. Am I seeing that at the Grand Gala, or am I just remembering
You're just
it?
seeing it. You don't see it at the Grand Gala. You don't see it anywhere. You just see it deep in the fire. And you see those wisps of smoke. How you interpret that, I don't know. That's what you see in the fire as you meditate.
Okay. Thank you. And yes, I will then I will be meditating for 4 hours. And then I'll be getting back to work.
And your plan for getting back to work is to go across the city to the Megalenion to High Praetor Zethiri's office?
Absolutely.
Okay.
How long will
Let's.
it take to get there, do you think?
Oh, I mean, it is across the city, but you kind of 30 minutes. 30
Okay,
minutes or so.
I would consider doing it this evening rather than waiting until the morning,
Okay.
because I would happily wait until the morning.
Yeah,
I
but
think
you can do it.
Rysar's really tired.
Yeah. So after your 4 hours, and that's a question, do you want to sleep until the morning, or do you want to go ahead and tonight head to the office? There's a good chance that she'll be there or somebody representing her will be there.
I'll go now. I'll be a good Praetor.
Just this once.
Yeah. What?
No. Okay. Are you taking anything with you from your house when you go to High Praetor Zethiri's?
I'm taking my elven longblade.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. Let's move then for now away from this, and let's return to Merula.
Yes, I've been anime running back to the villa district, as I recall.
And there's nobody else who tries to stop you this time. Though I think you do continue to have the feeling, perhaps, that you're being watched just every now and then. But you get back to the villa district, and there's your home. There's House Akasha. Lights on inside, not all the lights, but you can see a few lamps glowing through the windows. You can see the olive trees and the gardens just moving with the wind, outlined by the light of the moons, and your home.
All right, good. I'm on time. I don't think I'm late. I am going to climb through my window so that I can change clothes very quickly, because I would really rather just not have to explain this blood.
That's
And
fair.
although I do absolutely have the means to clean that off very quickly, somehow I'm much more, is it paranoid of using any sort of tricks when I'm near my father. I know he can't see everything at all times, theoretically, but I don't tempt fate. I climb through the window and I change.
All right. And is the evening attire for Merula any different than the daytime attire? Is there a specific sort of way that they dress to go to dinner with Lord Lucius?
It's a little less utilitarian, certainly, than sort of round town. One needs to be able to pick up the hems of one's robes very easily, to run around and climb things, and nope, that's all. So I think what Merula might change it into would be a little less practical, but probably one of their half-brothers, old robes.
I like that. Last question before you descend to go find your father.
Yes.
Where do you place the old clothes? Is there anything specific they do with those clothes that they were wearing previously?
No, not especially, because they're a little less wary of anybody in the household taking notice. Scrapes and cuts and bruises cause blood. It's not the worst thing in the world. It's just really not something that my father would find presentable, and I don't want to explain to him directly, but it should be perfectly all right.
All right.
It should be perfectly all right. Merula is notorious for their famous last words.
Merula, you can hear as you're heading downstairs from your room. It's a quiet night like most nights in the house. Sometimes there are a lot of visitors during the day, but House Akashi is a quiet house with not that many surviving members besides the people who work there. And you can hear as you're coming down the stairs, somewhere beyond the dining room, the sound of a pair of musical instruments being played. You've heard a couple of maids who clean up at night after dinner sometimes play music. And Lord Lucius allows them to. He finds it pleasant, he says. They might stick around for a little while after their shift, and he might pay them a little bit extra before they leave for the night. And you can hear them playing that music as you descend the stairs. You can see the light on in the dining room.
I enter.
You see there at the far end of a long white oak dining room table with several bone candelabras with candles that are burning is Lord Lucius. He's wearing a dark, almost black, like dark brown toga laced with gold and eating dinner. You can tell from the smell and from what's left of his dinner on his plate that it's a serving of dates stuffed with what looks like some sort of maybe kink cheese curds and some sort of roasted bird that he's still picking some of the meat off the bone. You can smell something like cinnamon in the air too. And there is a plate on the other side of the table. It kind of looks a little congealed, a little cold, but it's still there, the side of the table that you would normally sit at when you eat dinner with Lord Lucius.
From time to time, there's still sort of a hitch in my step moving up that close to Father to sit at the table. The few times that I did sit at the family table, I was at the very, very, very far end. And now, of course, I tend to sit by his right hand, and that really just takes some getting used to. But I'm getting better at it, and I do. I go and I sit. And good evening, Father.
His eyes tick up slowly from your plate up to your face. He's got dark circles under his eyes. He looks even more tired than usual. His face is just as reserved and steely as ever. He says, how are you, Merula?
I'm doing well, thank you. And yourself, my lord?
He looks back to his plate and picks off some more meat from a bone. I'm fine. What kept you out tonight?
There was a man, and he was ill, and he fell in the street, and I wanted to help him. I directed him toward House Serena. There's a miracle worker there that I thought might help him. And it took a little bit more time, but forgive me, my lord, it seemed worth it.
Finishes chewing, looks back to you, leans back in his chair a little bit, and folds his hands over each other onto his lap. Miracle worker. Merula, do you find that I'm doing all that I can to support you and your education
Yes, Father, of course.
And is that the only reason why you were late to dinner tonight?
Had that not happened, I would not have been late, certainly. But I was with that praetor that we met with, and the Lady Akasha, in fact, and a new person come to town, a turtle named Kronqual. Kronqual is he. I stuff a piece of bread in my mouth, and I chew.
And for one of the only times probably you've seen this, like a genuine look of startle, confusion, kind of creeps across his face just for a moment as you're explaining this motley crew. He kind of clears his throat and stares hard at you. And he says, "Well, what did you learn?"
I learned that the Lady Akasha of House Sereno is going to be running for Praetor and very likely for the arena seat against Lord Rysar, because it appears they consider themselves rivals of a kind. It seemed that she has been talking to House Jarko for their support, and it didn't seem like it was being given to the Praetor Rysar. That is what I've learned of them thus far. Father, I also heard from, perhaps not the most reliable source, an urchin from the street, that there might be something happening tomorrow at the Garden Gala, something dangerous, perhaps. I alerted the Praetors immediately, of course. But I wanted to tell you because I wouldn't want anything to happen to you tomorrow.
His face is stone during your entire explanation, and it softens a little at the end. And he falls back just an inch towards his chair and slumps, which he doesn't normally do. And continues to look at you, and he says, "I appreciate you working so hard. Oh, politics might be unsavory at times, dangerous even. But not everything is a conspiracy, Merula.
Certainly not.
In what you heard of the gala tomorrow, any details, anything of merit, or is just this the story of, as you said, a young urchin?
Only that they were gathering at sunset. Nothing further now, my lord. I hoped to find out from the Praetors if there were anything further in their investigations as proper law enforcement before the gala itself.
You did the right thing, Merula. Let the Praetors worry about security. The gala is just outside of the White Palace, just at the edge of Caesar's eye. Surely it will be secure. But what you've done is wise, making allies and friends, looking into matters of the family. I can appreciate all of it. When I was a young man, not even a man, I loved these stories of adventurers who would travel the silt seas, find oceans and worlds that did not exist in ours, slay monsters and become heroes, the stories my mother would tell me. But my father told me stories too, Merula. How to make a profit, how to care for your garden, how to care for the people who work for you, who entrust their livelihood to your house. There's not room enough for both. If you're to be Lord, one day master of all of this house, you have to believe in the truth, Merula, not in stories.
Should we take the truth as the word of others who so often lie, my lord? Or should at times we investigate for ourselves to know the truth, lest that which others tell us be but stories?
You should never take most people in this city's word at face value. And while you are young and able, and do not have all of the responsibilities of the house, I think it is good, this investigation. I think it is good for you. Just be careful not to get too carried away with it all.
Absolutely, Father. Yes, Father. Bird, mouth, chew.
He does the same. Like a moment behind you, he goes back, and I think it's the last little bit of meat. He chews on it. He looks out into the hall beyond. He says, I'm tired, Merula. Every day feels longer and longer. I think I'll retire now. Will you still accompany me tomorrow?
It is my honor, my Lord Father, to accompany you and to do the bidding of House Akachi in this and in all things.
He rises slowly, his fingertips pushing up against the table.
I get up.
He straightens his back and he looks down at you. And you're sure nothing else of note happened? Nothing you would like to share with me? Merula.
And Merula's going to tell the story of the people who attacked them and what they did. And they're going to tell the truth. They're not. They're just going to say that they took Kronqual to meet a tutor. And then these people came. And they turned into serpents. And I defended myself as best I could. And I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. I thought we were just going to a tutor. And I thought everything would be fine. I didn't think I would be in any danger, and I protected everyone, and I did very well, and I hid, and... It was scary. But I'm okay.
He reacts immediately as you're telling your story. You can hear the snapping his fingers, and he ushers in those two maids. Their music stops. He has them bring fresh water onto the table, and he holds a cup for you just once you're ready. And you can see him do something that he's never done before. He almost puts his hand on your shoulder, almost, and then he pulls it away and kind of wipes it at the side of his tunic, and he waits, and he listens, and he holds up that cup of water, and he smiles.
I try to put myself back together as quickly as possible. I don't think I've actually ever cried in front of my father before. I try to wait until I'm out of the room, and then I cry a lot. But this is probably the first time I've ever shown this much emotion in front of him, easily. But I really was very scared, and I've kind of wanted to cry all day, and so this is the point where it cracks.
In that moment where things are calming back down, he holds up that cup, and he manages just a tiny, tiny smile, which is something that he never does. And he says something that he's never said. I'm very proud of you. You did the right thing, the hard thing. And we can discuss this more tomorrow. But you should rest, Merula.
Yes. Yes, Father. And you. You were about to go to sleep. I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
This was important, and I want you to share things with me, especially something like this.
Yes, Father. And thank you. I hold up the cup, but it's not really about the cup, is it?
He turns away from you and begins to move around the other side of the table, stops just at the far edge of the table, and turns slightly back, and he says, "Good night, Merula. Goodbye."
Goodbye, Father.
He steps out of the room, leaving you there alone.
He said goodbye.
And I think this is where we're going to move to a short break, and we'll come back around. So thank you folks for hanging out tonight. Hope you're all enjoying the show. A big thank you to our sponsors, Dark Dice and Wormwood Gaming and Level Up Dice. Their support is why we're able to do what we're able to do. Please, if you're watching, check out our info down below. You can see links. We have sponsorship links where you can get discounts on things. Please check those things out. Our sponsors are what keeps us alive. And if you want to support what we're doing tonight, please support our sponsors. I really appreciate y'all being here. We will be back in just a few minutes. far northwest of Balic, in a quiet area beyond the busy heart of the Guilders district, the Cerebrin rises with a majesty and spectacle only rivaled by the White Palace of Caesar himself. Tall marble walls rise some 30 feet up into the night sky, blocking view of the happenings of the College of the Way from any passersby. Beyond, tall spirals of marble and crimson stone, embedded with rich, large gemstones and crystals, reach even higher than the walls themselves. Despite the obvious glamour of the Cerebrin, it is entirely secretive. Its tall spirals have no visible windows, and no sound escapes the school grounds from within. Kronqual, as you have wandered through the night up to the harbor and down to the outside of the Cerebrin, just where the old man said it would be, this is what you find, these walls, and the only way in and out of the school is through a large metal gate that does not seem to have any obvious means from which you could open it. Through the portcullis of the gate, view is obscured by a sort of strange multicolored haze. A single half-giant guard stands on duty wearing a clean white toga. Slung from a large belt made of mechalot leather is a heavy wooden club studded with sharp bone shards. The guard watches the street with one eye, his other eye sort of drifting lazily side to side.
Hello?
As he tries to get the attention.
The guard looks at you, not with his head, but just his one good eye as you approach and greet him. He says, hello. What do you want?
I am Kronqual. Kronqual is I. I was thwarted by a test of your masters. If you would have me, I accept.
His large, bushy eyebrows creep higher and higher up his skull the more you speak. He pulls with one hand his long hair out from his face and kind of pulls it over his shoulder and down to his waist. His other hand reaching just slightly, almost gripping those large, meaty fingers around the haft of that club at his side. And now his other eye, the one that kind of flickers back and forth, moves over to you as well. And he says, I am just a god. And you speak of my masters. I do not speak for them, creature.
Kronqual. What is your name, then?
I am Tompa.
Tompa. Well, Tompa, I would like to pass.
Do you have a writ that allows you passage? Have you made arrangements with the great masters of the Cerebrin?
No, I do not have a writ, but I was visited, from what I think, by your masters earlier today.
Go on.
Thank you.
And he starts to waddle towards him, and at some point stops. And expectantly waits for him to move aside.
As you get close, he does grip the haft of his club, and he lets go of his hair and puts a large hand out, stretching it the full length that it can towards you. He says, "Stop there."
Now I'm confused. You said, go on. And now you're saying, stop here. May I pass?
Creature,
Kronqual.
I cannot let you pass. Kronqual.
Tomba.
I cannot let you pass unless you have a writ or something else that might move me to let you pass. And you see him kind of, that one eye that flickers back and forth, drift to the side and then back to you. And the hand that's outstretched flattens and the palm turns up into the air.
And I think he does what he did earlier. And he slowly raises his hand out and he places it on his palm to palm. And then he firmly grips from above. He looks him in the eyes and closes his eyes slowly. Opens them up.
The half-giant pulls back his hand and looks down into it as though he's expecting to see something there, sees nothing there. Scratches the side of his head and looks back to you, at first confused and then incredulous. What is the meaning of this? Did Gulag put you up to this? Are you wasting my time, Kronqual?
No, I would do no such thing. I thought I made myself clear. I was tested earlier this day by your masters, and I believe I succeeded. From what I understand, the Cerebran test their subjects before admittance. Is this true?
He looks uncertain. And he admits just quietly to say, I must be honest, I have never been inside myself. I've never heard of anything like this before. It's very strange, but you're very unique, I suppose. Do you have anything to prove the words you're telling me, though, beside just me believing you?
I would like to, at this moment, I would like to use what is he holding? A bone club?
He has like a bone club hanging from his side. And one hand is on the weapon's hilt, on its haft.
Is it hooked onto anything?
Yeah, just very loosely onto a leather belt. A large leather belt.
Well?
He takes a couple steps back. He closes his eyes and he holds out an arm, or he holds out his hand. But I think much like, or maybe he lifts up his hand from this man's palm and he backs away. And as he does, I'm going to use telekinetic hand and pull that weapon toward, into my hand, into Kronqual's hand. And I'd also like that, I don't know how we go into an intrigue action, but I'd like to use that as like psionic manipulator.
Yeah, let's do it. So let's go ahead and start an intrigue between the two of you, and I'll pull up our social encounter rules for 5th edition that we have here. should pop up for you. So the first thing you have to decide when you use in an intrigue, if you're going to use magic or you're going to use psionics, do you do so in a way that they can tell that you're using it, or do you do so subtly? To do so subtly, you have to make a check, and you have to use your bonus action on your turn.
He does not do it subtly.
Okay, cool. So you have to use your psionic manipulator. It means that when you're using a psionic power, you can roll an extra 1d6 and add it to your check, your ability check that you're making, your skill check. So what action do you want to use first in coordination with this?
I would like to use the convince action.
Yeah. So you can make me a persuasion check and add 1d6 to it.
All right. 11.
All right. So that is a success. His poise is reduced by 1 because it's a regular success. And so I imagine this moment like it does that Jedi thing where the weapon kind of shakes for a moment and then whoosh, through the air to you.
He opens his eyes and looks up at him.
Does this prove my abilities to the guard that now has no weapon to do his duty?
You can see his fists like twist in anger as he takes a couple of heavy-footed steps towards you away from the gate. And he says, all this proves is that you're out to either get me fired or to waste my time. What trickery is this? Give me back that club.
Very well.
He drops it, but it doesn't move. He puts his hand by his side and it stays there.
Kind of makes a sound and like sort of almost reaches his hand out to grab it, but thinking it might be a trick, he pulls back his hand. Cord, you have also a bonus action that you can take on your turn. It's any of the bonus actions
I bite him
at the top.
All right. Okay.
You can do that. That is
I'm not going to do it. Bonus action. I will observe.
Sure. Yeah, so go ahead and make an insight check.
That's a 7. Wait. That's a 9.
Yeah, he's you can't tell if he's about to attack you or not. You can definitely tell that he is hesitant when he sees the weapon just hold in midair. He doesn't reach out and snatch it, but he looks directly down at you and he says, you have one more moment before I flatten you with my fists, little Kronqual.
Well, then I
Tell me what this is about. Who put you up to it? What is it you're doing here?
I believe it was your masters that put me up to this task here, the same who pay you to guard. Though you did say you would need to be moved or convinced. Hopefully I have done the convincing. May I pass?
If you know my masters, what are their names? What do they look like?
For one who's never been inside the walls, I would pose the same question to you.
Scratches his head again and looks back down to you. He's gonna do an intimidate on his turn. It's not a good roll. It is a 7, which is not enough to succeed. Okay. What is your action here in this sort of back and forth you have?
I
And are
will
you
prepare?
Prepare? Absolutely, yeah.
I will prepare.
So go ahead and make charisma, wisdom, or intelligence saving throw, your choice.
Wisdom. A 4.
These dice.
You need new dice. That's okay. You still benefit from it a little bit. You'll add 1 to your next turn, your intrigue action on your next turn. And then you can recover, you can observe, or you can attempt to do something with psionic subtly as your bonus action.
Oh, the bonus. I will recover.
Okay. Roll me another saving throw, your choice.
Wisdom. 7.
Okay. He definitely looks confused in this moment, and he takes a step back and he says, I could call my masters for you right now. Would you like that?
Yes, this would have gone over much more smooth if we've done that from the start. Tompa.
What's it worth to you, Kronqual, if I help you in? What will you give to me?
Oh, I know a Praetor who is always looking for people of your stature to help him. I'm sure his coin could outmatch whoever's filling your pockets. If you like, I can talk with him.
And what is your Praetor's name?
Rysar.
There's a flicker of recognition in his eyes at the name Rysar. He knows who that is. He says, very well, Kronqual. I'll let you in, but know this. If you do not belong inside, if you are lying, I will simply feign ignorance, and you will not leave again. So you'd better be telling the truth.
I am telling the truth. I do not know you to lie.
He stomps back a couple of steps and turns. And when he turns to the gate, you see the colors change. He doesn't do anything with his hands, but you can roll me an insight check.
17.
Hey.
Finally.
You get the feeling that, and maybe for the first time, Kronqual, even though this land and its ways are different, strange to you perhaps, you get the feeling for the first time that this guard maybe isn't as unaware and out of touch as he appears. And you also get the feeling that he's channeling a powerful amount of psionics from his mind into the gate. And a moment later, the haze, that multicolored haze, begins to fade, and the gate begins to creak as it rises upwards, and he steps to the side and turns back to you. Be careful in there, Kronqual.
All right. Thank you, Tompa. I will tell the Praetor of your friendly demeanor
as he walks and continues through the passage.
You enter into the beginning of the grounds of the Cerebrin, and you can see once you step through, whereas before it looked barren and like there was no movement or sound or smell at all, once you step beyond the threshold, you see people, you hear sounds. Young, mostly, not, a few older individuals as well, running through the grounds. And a few of them who are nearby you do turn and kind of look at you as you're approaching. You see all around these spires that have these gems and crystals set on them. Once you step through the gate, the gems and the crystals begin to glow, and they fill the night air with a sort of soft glow, so that everywhere within the school grounds is well lit. You see people doing incredible things, floating large objects that look like various stones put together like puzzles up into the air with their minds, and then those stones breaking apart and reforming in different configurations, and then breaking apart and reforming in different configurations. People creating sources of light and illusion with their minds. It's chaos for a moment as you step into it. There's life here, students.
In the middle of the night?
In the middle of the night. Well, it's not. It's probably like the equivalent of like 9 or 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I think Kronqual continues in. Maybe someone who is configuring one of these rocks, taking it apart, putting it back together in various, like one of those, like the, I don't know, like a Rubik's Cube or something. These people doing these puzzles with their mind, and he's just finding these different configurations and such. I think he's going to approach them.
Hello. I'm sorry to interrupt.
One of the 3 students who are working on the puzzle, they all kind of look to each other, and one of them pushes another one forward, and he kind of looks and smiles over his shoulder as he gets close to you, and he says, "There's something I can do for you."
Does the puzzle fall?
No.
Okay. I think record scratch, everyone looks. I think Kronqual then...
I'm looking for the masters of this Cerebrin. I've been tested and I succeeded.
Is that so? Well, you're looking for them at the wrong time. They're usually well asleep by now. Perhaps 1 or 2 are wandering around somewhere. You said you've been tested. Strange, I've never seen you here before, and please forgive me, but you're Tortle, right?
I am Kronqual, as I...
Kronqual. Well, news of a Tortle joining the Cerebrin would spread very quickly, and I've not heard anything of it.
It is rather new. I am a new recruit. Hours old.
Tell me, have you registered yet? Is this? You say you've passed the test. What test did you pass?
Oh, earlier today, my friends and I were challenged by 3, I believe, of your agents, or masters, if you will. They were wearing white cloaks and with the lidless eye. They also were very proficient in the way. I have defeated their images, and I am here to claim my training.
Well, it's true that our instructors and our masters do wear white cloaks with that symbol,
Hmm.
they're not under the habit of challenging people
Oh,
using images.
I,
The test is it's a little more complicated than that, I'm
I
afraid.
was aware that status was brought through Balic, through combat. Is that not true?
Maybe it's true somewhere else, Kronqual, with the criterion,
Yes.
those brutes. But
Oh,
that is not our way. That's not how we do things here. I, it seems like perhaps you do need to speak to someone, but, uh, well, the best I can do is to point you out to the registration desk. They might be able to help you or help you set an appointment.
mm, I
As he looks confused at this whole, as his explanation.
I would like to register to train with your masters.
Well, let me take you then. He looks back to his friends who kind of are giving him this, like, what are you doing with your time? Like, aren't you going to come back and play these games with this look? And he just kind of shoos him away. As he does, he flicks a finger and one of those stones flies out of the puzzle and he catches it in his hand. And he just kind of turns it over in his hand as he walks. And he says, follow me. I'll take you there. It's just down the end of this way.
All right.
Tell me, Kronqual, how long have you been in Balic?
I've been in Balic for 2, 3 suns so far.
Well, I hope that you do join us here. I think your perspective would be fascinating. I would love to see you in classes. Gets a little samey around here, everyone thinking the same way, doing the same things. It's not very much of a challenge, but perhaps you could change that. Who was your sponsor?
My sponsor? Whatever do you mean?
Oh. So if you were to join us here and take the actual tests, nothing against whatever experience you had, which you have to have a sponsor, Kronqual. You need someone who is graduated or is of high noble standing in the city to speak for you and say that you are worthy to take the tests. And if you don't have the resources to pay the fees yourself, oftentimes your sponsor will pay the fees for you. And in turn, when you finish school here, it is expected you will serve them in their interests.
The sponsor is someone who is paying for me. Yes?
In part, yes, but not anyone with money can be a sponsor. They must be
then I would say Praetor Rysar has been paying for me thus far and thus would be my sponsor.
Praetor Rysar, the criterion Praetor. Yes?
That would be the one. You have heard of Rysar? He's my friend.
Yes, I've heard of him. I can't say that, can't say that I'm a fan of the business that he partakes in, but to each their own, I suppose. I'm glad that you found a sponsor so quickly. Some have to work years to get a sponsor.
And I found one in just 3 suns.
How about that? Well, small miracles. Here, this is where we're going, and he's walked you down to this large spiraling building. It doesn't go up like a cone, but imagine like a corkscrew. right? Where at the very top of this corkscrew stone building is a large obsidian orb, and it's glowing with this sort of dark blue light that pulses a little bit. All the other lights are steady, but this light at the top is pulsing. He
Oh,
says, just in there, you'll find a woman who can help you, I hope. I hope that you are able to take the tests, but a word of advice for you if you join us here in your studies.
yes.
Some of the students here and even some of the masters can be manipulative. They can be tricky, and when someone as special as you, Tortle, someone who is new to Balic, who has already found such a respectable sponsor, comes, well, they can be a little bit abusive. They might use you and then try to hurt your reputation, even get you kicked out of school.
Ooh.
So be careful who you trust. That's all. I had to learn that the hard way.
Hello, students or masters?
Ooh, students are the worst, but the masters were once students themselves, and a few of them can be unbearable.
Very well. I will keep my head down.
And he lowers his neck into his shell, probably about 3 inches or so, just so and as he just prepares and continues to
waddle alongside.
He stops at the door and he lets go of that little cube-shaped orb that's rock, and it turns into a triangle shape, rotates, and then flies into the door of this tower. And as it hooks into the door slides smoothly open, and you can see light spilling out from inside. And the student kind of looks at you and he says, well, I'm going to get back to it, but I hope we meet again, Kronqual.
I hope as well. What was your name?
Tennille.
Tennille. Very well. Goodbye, Tennille. Good luck with whatever it was you were doing.
And he turns around and makes his way inside this hall, and approaches the woman inside. Do I see her from where I'm standing?
Yeah. So as you step inside, here's what you see: that there are multiple students, not just one woman in this sort of chamber, the stone chamber, levitating orbs made out of obsidian and marble, one or the other, light or dark. And each of these orbs has runes sketched into them. You can see that they're levitating them just in front of them, and they're spinning them, reading the runes rapidly. And these runes go around in a spiral. So if you were to start to read at the top and spin the rune around, you could read all the way around in the circle to the bottom. And once they finish reading one rune, one of these orbs, it shoots back up towards the ceiling high above, and another orb shoots down and stops at their hand, and they continue reading off in the corner of the room. But there is a desk there, this old stone desk with a woman. She's probably around 30 years old, half elven, has long, curly, fiery red hair. She's dressed, unlike the students, in that white robe. Her hood is down, but you recognize it as the same sort of robe that those 4 individuals who hunted you and your friends in the streets were wearing.
Hello.
She looks up from an orb that she was reading to you, and you can see that she's got these sort of spectacles on, a pair of glasses, that there's this, like, across the lenses, just kind of flickers a little bit of that purple light that you recognize as oftentimes being a side effect of psionics. And she takes off the device from her eyes and looks up to you, and she says, hello, can I help you?
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm a new student here. Kronqual, I was hoping to register appropriately. I have a sponsor.
Of course. Excuse me, I didn't expect us to have any incoming students this evening. What was your sponsor's name? And I think at this point, the lizard, like the lizard that's been attached to you, like kind of comes up out of your shell and settles on your shoulder, and you can just
Cat-sized
see its
lizard,
tongue
yeah.
flicker. Yeah.
Praetor Rysar.
Praetor Rysar. Just one moment.
He reaches
She
into his
looks
hides
up.
and he pulls out some food for it.
Oh. It munches, a little bit of food like falls down the front of your shell, and as she looks up at the same time, you see two orbs shoot down from the ceiling. These two are transparent, and like the others, they still have runes etched onto them, and they kind of light up a little bit as she spins them around and reads. I see. Spins the other rune around. And she shoots them back up into the air and gives you a little bit of a troubled smile. And she says, I'm sorry, but I don't have it in my records that you're to be a student here. These sorts of things do happen from time to time. You see, I think you might be confused, and it's not your fault. We are purposefully secretive here. And because of that, some people think that they've taken tests or been invited to join us, when in fact they are at the very beginning of their process. You said you had a sponsor.
Yes.
Praetor Rysar, you said.
I did.
Well, I would be happy to get you started and get you the proper knowledge, get you signed up for all of our aptitude tests. Of course, to do so, you would have to come with your sponsor, and they would have to bring the appropriate payment. And once you do that, we can get started.
All right. One thing. The guard, Tompa, said I can't leave.
Really? That's interesting. Did he say why?
No. He said if I was to go in, I would not leave, whether I was lying or not. Well, I'm not lying. So maybe he will let me pass. That is not up to me. That is up to him and the masters. Are you his master?
I am, and I would be happy to walk you out just to make sure that he's understanding that you're to be left alone.
Thank you.
Kronqual, make me an insight check.
Yeah, perfect. 14.
You feel a presence trying to slip subtly beyond your walls into your mind.
Am I getting any sort of read of this presence? Is it a negative presence? Or is it just something is prodding?
I think at the edge, if you were to envision your core and you were to see the bright daytime sky, you would see a large, multicolored bird, rainbow feathered bird, just kind of slowly drifting up in the air. And every time it circles, it's getting a little bit closer to you. Not aggressive, and it is beautiful, but you're aware that it is a foreign presence.
Ooh. I make note of the presence.
Do you try to keep it out or to interact with it at all, or do you just make note of it?
I think we see
Like a distortive whoosh sound, or we hear whoosh as we are taken into this space, maybe the nexus of Kronqual, and it being maybe the dry sky of Athas, and in the vista we picture there's the sun, there's the dry arid sky, and then just ever so like spiraling into view is this whooshing, this bird of prey with multicolored feathers, you said? And I think as it goes to as it gets ever so closer towards the sun, I think Kronqual, or at least we try to see it starts to fight a gust of dust and wind. And I'm going to try to push back a little bit and try to push it out of the nexus.
All right.
I don't know what you'd want me to roll if it's a roll.
And an intelligence saving throw, unless you have like a specific ability that's appropriate here. You make me an intelligence saving throw.
That is a 15.
That wind, that gust begins to push it up, and whereas it was gliding before, it begins to flap its wings a little bit harder, and it nosedives just a bit down, fighting against that gust. And now it looks fierce. You can hear it shriek a bird sound, and it begins to transform, begins to grow larger, and then a tail, a long snaking tail, comes out of the back of it. The feathers begin to molt off of it. It begins to fall through the air as its wings pull away. You can again try to keep it away, but this one's going to be a harder check.
This one's diving. It's diving now? Is that what you said?
It's dropping, like its wings have molted, and it's transforming and growing, and it's falling through the air.
Yeah, I think he's going to... Does the molting of it growing and it falling, does it look like it's... does it feel at all like it's aggressive, or is this just a defense? Like, is it struggling to stay, or is it like in control of its
right now? It's just falling, but if there's a hint of anything, you can't tell if this is triggered from the outside, from this mind, or from your own mind, but you smell that faint burning smell, that smell that keeps kind of ghosting back to you now and then. The smell of your village maybe a week ago.
I think in this nexus we hear a distorted sniff as we're taken back to these dark halls of the Cerebrin, and in a quickened pace that we don't see much of from Kronqual, he reacts and takes a half step backward as he opens his eyes, or maybe his eyes flick back from the white that it is to the dark large pupil and dark iris that is the natural eyes of Kronqual as he snaps back. He checks his surroundings.
Are you all right, Kronqual? And she's standing up now and kind of moved to the other side of her desk. Do you need a hand?
I am all right.
And he reaches out his hand, expecting her
She
to,
takes it.
and he clasps it for a second as she may feel his pulse through his wrist. It's quickened.
She grasps the top of it and gives you a squeeze and looks you right in the eyes, just kind of waiting for you to signal or to say.
I am all
something.
right. Thank you. We should,
Of course.
make our way out, yes?
Well, I do hope that you'll find that Praetor of yours and come back and we can get you started.
Yes.
It's an amazing place, the Cerebrin. Nowhere else like it in all this world.
So I've seen. Wondrous. Thank you. I can't wait to show my friend Rysar.
She smiles and she nods and she says, "Oh, not everyone can manage to get a Praetor as their sponsor, so good on you. You must have a lot of aptitude and talent. Come, I'll walk you out. You have
passed
somewhere
the
to stay
test.
tonight."
I do, yes.
Good, good. My name is Kiernan.
Kiernan.
Please, if anyone gives you trouble when you return, you ask for me. I'll help you, Kronqual.
All right. Thank you, Kiernan.
It's my pleasure. And she leads you out of the tower, and there's still some of the kids out and about, a few less than before, just kind of hanging out at night on the grounds of the school. She leads you back to the front gate. It rises as she approaches and the mist fades away. Is there anything else you try to do before she leads you out?
I think, if you let me, I think as there's a as he's leaving, the shot of him walking out is probably behind a group of these students as they're assembling this foreign object above them, and it's clicking, it's clacking, and it's trying to find a space for a piece. And one of them's holding it, and the camera's behind them as Kronqual's walking out with her, and it wriggles from his hand, and the piece, the structure, the little construct puzzle just opens up a hole, and then the piece gets inserted into it, and then the camera cuts over to Kronqual as his eyes fade from the murky white back to the black as he smiles.
And the thing, back in the background, as we fade back to you, all of the students stop and they kind of look up, and then they all kind of turn at once to look towards the gate where you're standing, looking to your back.
Yeah, he's
Just
already
kind
walking
of that
out.
dumb,
Yeah.
that dumb look on their faces. And you step through the gates and into the night. Roll me one last insight check.
Sure. 16.
As the gates shut behind you, a moment after Kiernan returns, you could hear her kind of scolding the guard a little bit. He just kind of grunts down to you as you pass by, not looking at you, except for with that one eye that kind of drifts to the side. As you step back out into the night to go elsewhere or return home for the evening, you just have that itching feeling in the back of your head that whatever that presence was, whoever that was trying to get inside your mind, they got what they were looking for. Memories of everything that happened today. You can kind of feel it.
Mm. Mm.
He takes a moment to assess, probably still at the entryway. In the background, we hear the dull tones of Kiernan scolding the guard, Tampa, and then he waddles and turns around.
No need to scold. He was doing his job. Thank you, Tompa. Thank you, Kiernan. Have a good evening. I will be back with my sponsor.
As he waddles back around, his eyes widen again as he still is puzzled by this vision.
And she smiles and nods to you and slips back inside, and Tampa grunts one more time. Doesn't say anything else. No gratitude.
All right. And then he walks into the night.
And as you move into the night, let's move elsewhere. Let us go to Praetor Rysar. You've had the time to rest and prepare yourself to go across town to High Praetor Zethiri's office. This is in the Megalenion, and in the center of the city is a large series of hills that kind of build up in plateaus to the top, where the White Palace is and dominates the rest of the city. But down at the base of those hills, you can reach most of the High Praetor's offices once you pass through the first gates. Most people are not allowed past through those gates. However, being a Praetor yourself, it's a simple matter. They move aside for you and you are within. At this time of night, there's still action happening up at the top of the hill at the White Palace. The White Palace is always full of life. Nobody really ever talks about what happens there. Lavish parties, perhaps there's all kinds of rumors, but Caesar doesn't really ever make an appearance in public. But certainly people work there and people go there, and it's always active. Down here, High Praetor Zethiri's office is in a large, it looks very much like a military building, like a small fortress, just one story tall, but long, not as well decorated. Some of the opulent statues of past heroes of Balic are entirely absent outside of this particular office. And you would know that within is a series of barracks and guards who kind of coordinate reports. And Zethiri herself, if she's around, will most likely be in the back where there's an open air courtyard. She likes to tend her garden. She keeps her desk outside, says that it helps her stay in touch with the elven half of her heritage. And as you approach the building, Praetor Rysar, what's Rysar's demeanor? How's he going into this?
This is kind of home turf for Rysar. He feels at home with the sort of no nonsense. There's no flourish on the building. It's, it looks smart. It's good. It's official. It's he can find his way through Kafkaesque offices and bureaucracies with ease. I think he's at home in this sort of territory. He likes it. He feels secure, and he sort of feels he knows, or he's confident he can work it to his advantage. He understands it.
And the two half-giant guards in white togas standing on the outside look down to you, and without a word, they move one arm, and both of them together swing these large stone double doors that scrape against the ground to open the way inside to the little fortress proper. You can see lights burning from within, people moving about and working even at this hour of the night.
Mm-hmm. I continue to where Zethiri's desk should be.
And there's an officer inside, one of the city guard, who greets you, has you basically check in and give a series of dates and codes that you're to use to basically prove that you are who you say you are, and then they guide you to the back to where Zethiri is. So there's a small olive garden, maybe 50 feet in diameter, that lives in the center of this structure, and the moons are coming down overhead, providing some light. You can see her desk there, a stone desk in the center of the grove, and then the garden all around the desk. And currently you see Zethiri as you enter to the back, just kind of bent down and hedging a small growing plant. There's a bowl of olives and a large pitcher of some sort of liquid sitting out on the table with several glasses, a couple of them half full, suggesting that she's had other meetings tonight. She kind of looks up to you. Zethiri is young, very young for a high praetor, even for a half elf. She's got very sharp, intelligent eyes, short blonde hair that kind of comes down just below her shoulders. She keeps tied up in a sort of ponytail, and then these piercing green eyes. Her skin is tanned, but not as tanned as a lot of people who spend time outside, because she does spend her days working inside and her nights out here for the most part. She's also got much broader, stronger shoulders and arms than most half-elves. And she does have a reputation for being a pretty fierce fighter when push comes to shove. She smiles up at you. She's missing one tooth. She puts down her gardening tools and brushes off her hands, and she waves over to you, and she says, "I suppose you thought it was important we meet tonight, or you would have announced your coming. Please have a seat, Praetor Rysar."
Thank you, High Praetor Zethiri, and unfortunately you are correct. It could not wait. I hope you are well.
Well, I'll be better after tomorrow. The garden is always... it's a lot of work. Well, you know. You were there 10 years ago, just as I was.
I was indeed. And how those 10 years have flown by. I trust your term as High Praetor has treated you well. Certainly, those around you feel you have done an excellent job, High Praetor, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, the first 10 years are always the easiest, at least that's what the older ones say. Hope I've made a difference, that's all. As I'm sure you hope you've made a difference too, Praetor Rysar. She sits down and takes off a pair of gloves that are caked with dirt and mud and places them down on the table, reaches out and pours some water into 2 ceramic cups. One of them she sets down closer to you, and then one of them next to her, and she leans back in her chair and straightens out her shoulders, and she says, "What exactly can I help you with tonight?"
Well, the first matter is I wanted to check that you had received my report regarding the threat to the Garden Gala on the morrow.
When did you send your reports, Praetor Rysar?
This was... oh, how long ago? What, 2 days ago, maybe?
2 days ago, yeah, maybe like 2.5 days ago.
Yeah, some 2.5 days ago was when I submitted it.
Well, that's very strange, Praetor. I get my reports every single day. I've got nothing. Would you mind just, as much as you can, recounting to me what your report stated?
Does anything seem strange here, Don?
Roll me an insight check.
Because that's exactly what I'd say if I was a shape-changing illusionist. That's a 10 with the thing. +1.
Strange in that there's no reason, no good reason that she shouldn't have received or would not admit to you that she had received your report.
I cast a quick glance around and just make sure the surroundings seem normal. There's guards, praetors walking around, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you can see guards moving about inside, and now that you're kind of out here, you see almost like half covered by some larger olive trees, just standing in the darkest corner of this little place is a half giant guard wearing a darker robe, hand just dutifully on the club that hangs from his side, overwatching you and High Praetor's theory.
My report, High Praetor, was that I've received information that there may be some sort of attack at the Grand Garden Gala. There will be a meeting there at sundown by forces unknown.
I see. That's very surprising, Praetor. Who or what is the source of this information?
How do you call an associate of one of the houses was able to retrieve information from a masked... do I know it was masked figure? I can't remember. Well, I don't.
No, not personally, yeah.
Okay, so retrieve some information from someone when I had sent them to investigate. I don't know if you're aware, but I was attacked in my own home in the Arena district by a masked figure. And these masks seem to be going around, and it is these people who I fear will be interfering with our great wheels of democracy, High Praetor.
And did you send multiple reports, Praetor, or just one? I'm curious.
Just the one. The office here is usually so efficient in handling such reports.
Oh, I'll certainly get to the bottom of what happened and who made the mistake, but I appreciate you coming here greatly and letting me know. Do you know anything about these masks, what they look like, what we might inform the guards of?
They are the masks of the theatrical district, the comedy and the tragedy. They're very common. However, when I was following up in my investigations, I found that at least one local store had completely sold out of these masks, and then someone on the street had been giving them out to people. I fear that they may be using a distraction so that perhaps a single or handful of assassins can work whilst there is confusion.
I see. And you feel entirely certain that this is a legitimate threat, not a hoax. Would you be willing to take responsibility, perhaps, for overseeing extra security of some sort at the gala?
One can never be certain of anything in politics and skullduggery. I would be more than happy to direct security efforts. However, High Praetor, of course, we have our individual tasks at the gala. I myself will be running for a position. In fact, I wish to speak to you, for you are the, dare I say, chief inspiration for my action. You yourself, short 10 years ago, beat a corrupt, vile, thuggish half-giant out of his position. And I fear that our people, the great traders, the elves, and the humans of Balic, are once again suffering under another thuggish, foul, inefficient, and one will hope not corrupt, but who knows, half-giant, in the office of the High Praetor of Trade, and this is the man I wish to challenge. But yes, as you can imagine, I will be busy on the morrow. However, if I can aid in the security, of course, I serve at your pleasure.
I see. And of course, if all goes well and the threat is thwarted tomorrow, well, that would put you in a much better position to challenge a high praetor for his office.
Indeed it would. However, I would, of course, do the duty with no thoughts of such a matter. I serve at your will, the high praetors, the patricians, the people, and Caesar Androponus, of course. It is my pleasure, my duty, and my privilege to do so.
Of course, we all serve at Caesar's will. It is our duty. Praetor Rysar, I can afford you 2 of my giants. I can increase awareness and spread your message of these masks so others can be on the look at them. We'll make sure that anyone wearing such a mask disbands it so that we can clearly see their faces before they enter the garden. Of course, you'll have to oversee all of this, as I will be far too busy myself at the gala to be responsible for the matter. But you will have my support, and should you run, well, say we young ones must stick together.
And if I do as well as I'm certain you shall do, then we shall stay the young ones whilst the humans wither like old dates around us.
Oh, I don't think anyone will be challenging me for my position. Not this time around, anyways. But if they are, I'm sure your support needn't even be mentioned.
It goes without saying, High Praetor.
Very well, Praetor Rysar, but understand, you're responsible. Please don't make a scene at the gala. It is very secure and, well, Caesar would not be pleased.
Of course, High Praetor.
Is there anything else I might help you with? I should get back to my work.
Have you heard anything of a fracas in the streets? And I say the area where we were attacked by the assassins.
It's not uncommon, and sometimes reports from the maze take several days to find their ways to us. Sometimes murder or attacks or fights between gangs don't get reported at all. But if you're asking me about today, I've received no reports.
I shall continue my investigations. Myself and several nobles were set upon. They were dispatched. But it was strange. They wore
The
disguises.
same the masked individuals?
No. Different. Robed. Disguised, however.
Hmm.
They used the way, but I do not feel they were from the school.
Interesting. Well, one thing at a time, Rysar. Tomorrow, the gala. And then, if you need resources and are still interested, I will make sure you have what you need to investigate this other matter.
Thank you, High Praetor. The pleasure is, as ever, mine. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
With that, I turn around and leave. I feel more comfortable that they're not a shape-changing thing, and that actually my first message might have been intercepted or just fallen into, I don't know, a waste paper basket or something.
You don't, as you step out, you don't see her follow you. You can hear the sound of her tool clipping more branches as she goes back to gardening. Before you leave the building and go back out into the night, roll me, it's called an perception check.
It's a 15.
You don't see it inside the building, but it's once you step outside, you see in the shadows by a further on gate that goes into the garden proper that winds its way up to Caesar's palace. A young boy, young dirty-faced elven boy that you recognize as Van, watching you, just curiously.
Ah. Hello, how are you? I start walking over to him.
He starts walking towards you, looks up to you, kind of glassy-eyed a little bit, and says, "I'm fine, Praetor. Going to visit a friend. How are you?"
Very good, thank you, Van. Although quite sad, I must say. I was expecting a visit from you and your friends, in fact. How are you? What are you doing at the moment?
Oh, I'm very good, Praetor. I've been given a service position at the palace. It pays very well. Soon I will have my own home.
Well, that is paying very well. Huh. Maybe you can put a word in for me. Who employed you, if I may ask? And maybe I know them.
Oh, I can't say.
Really? What are you doing for the palace exactly?
Serving food. I'll be at the gala tomorrow.
When you say glazed over eyes, like a zombie, like someone who's been ensorcelled?
You can roll me an insight check, and I'll tell you exactly how much.
Or Arcana?
Yeah, you could do Arcana too. I'm fine
Doesn't matter with a 3 on the dice.
with that. Tired, detached, exhausted.
Where are you going now, Van? Are you busy?
I am. I'm sorry, Praetor. I must see a friend. Tomorrow's a long day.
Which friend are you seeing?
I can't say.
Didn't think so. Are you seeing the friend about tomorrow?
No.
Did you enjoy the arena games 2.5 days ago?
I find all the violence to be unnecessary.
Why were you there?
Serving food.
To the crowd?
Yes, for a time.
Being paid by the palace to do that?
No. House Jarko.
Ah. Very well. Did you send my money to your friends, the other beggars, etc.?
I did.
Were they grateful?
Do you want the truth, Praetor, or
Yes, of
would
course.
you like... No,
Oh.
just scraps. That's all it was.
Hmm.
But at least they ate.
Well, maybe I can do better if I get a pay rise. Where did you say you were going now? I'll walk
To see if...
I'll keep you safe. Praetor, on the streets, walking the beat. Which way?
Oh, I just forgot. I have to return to the palace now. Perhaps I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, perhaps. Do you want to get some food or something? You hungry? I could buy you a meal somewhere.
No, I'm afraid I shouldn't.
Very well, I'll walk you to the palace.
Of course. Thank you, Praetor. You're always so kind.
Yes, I
Mm.
am.
Turns, and it's not a far walk to the gates of the palace, and there are two large half giants standing at the gates, and they kind of grunt when the two of you approach. And Van looks up, and he's wearing clean white toga, not unlike a tiny version of what the half giants are working. Very plain servant kind of clothes. And he looks up to the giants and nods his head and says, "I'm expected to work tonight. May I pass?" They look to him, grunt, and then look to you. One of them just kind of growls, "What are you doing here, Praetor?"
I was keeping this young servant of the palace safe on the streets. I won't be going in.
Oh, well, I'm sure he'll be safe inside. Thank you for your service, Praetor.
Of course.
They open up the gate, and Van steps through, just walking even-footed up this winding green path that twists and turns around this hill till it reaches the white marbled palace, this grand palace, the very top of the hill where Caesar lives. The half giants grab the gate and begin to pull it close again.
Have I seen anything like this before, Don? Is it like Caesar, perhaps? Or a high vizier, or some sort of villainous wizard type, like I aspire to be? Let's do this
And
sort
where
of
is their
thing.
magic? Yeah, go ahead and roll me a history check. Let's call it a history. We don't get to do that very often.
No, I got 3.
No, I mean, your imagination can come up with all kinds of ideas, and it is an intriguing secret. What happens at the Palace of Caesar, the White Palace? Could he be ensorcelled? Could it be something else? Could he just be wary of you because of how the two of you met?
No, definitely not.
It seems strange, but there's no, like, oh yeah, I keep seeing people pop up acting like just like this.
Okay.
No.
I want to speak to the giants while I'm here.
Sure. Yeah.
You, do you get many servants like that.
You mean small?
I mean, strange in the head, behind the eyes.
Guess so. Half of people in the city. Strange behind the eyes to me.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, I guess. Walk safe, Praetor.
Yes. I turn and leave and start heading back to my home.
Move out
And
into the night.
Yeah, every now and then, and I've been doing this sort of whenever I get a moment, I just sort of like just go to the side of the street and sort of lean against the house or wall or whatever I find myself next to. And then I just sort of like look down and my eyes turn black and I just check in on my little
little
scaly
lizard
friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to imagine that it's at this point when you check in this time is when you see just for a moment the inside of the cerebrum. Like right as he does that trick with the students and takes the replaces the piece of stone, and all the students kind of turn and look at him at once. And I don't think Praetor Rysar has ever been inside the cerebrum, but you can just tell immediately from the strange towers and the kind of power that you're feeling as you look through this lizard's eyes where you are. And you see all of that from Kronqual's shoulder in your lizard's eyes. And then Kronqual is led out of the gate by a woman in a white robe. She pulls up her hood, and you can see through the lizard's eyes the lidless eye, the black lidless eye symbol on the back of her hood. And she leads him out beyond the gate.
I just think to myself, I cannot believe he got inside. And then I sort of come to again and sort of just look around and make sure no scallywags or rascals are coming near me, and continue my journey back to my home.
You take the night watchman walk through the city streets by yourself, and you see nothing else, no crimes committed on your way home. But as you walk off down the street, I want to go touch in with Merula, where Merula has been since last we saw them. So when last we saw Merula, Sam, their sort of father, Lord Lucius, and they'd had a moment, and Lucius retired for the evening to his room. And you find yourself now in a quiet dining room. There's still some cold bird on your plate, unfinished, half a glass of water, and you can hear the clanking of dishes being cleaned and washed from the side room, off to the side of the dining room. The pair of servants are back there working now, but you're on your own to pursue what you will with the rest of your night.
I've been eating my cold bird, and honestly, I've been thinking of the last Garden Gala 10 years ago. I didn't go to it, obviously, but one of my half-brothers was running, and I remember the whole family came out to the country the day after the gala, and they were talking about it, and everyone was there, and it was one of the few times I got to just be with the whole family, and it was almost like I was a part of... I think my father actually even noticed me that day. It's bothering me because I'm still no closer to knowing anything about why all this happened to my family. I don't even know who to talk to about it. I don't even know where to start. So I think I'm going to finish my cold bed and take my plate and everything and just at least help the servants out a bit, just clean up after myself, for goodness sake.
And as the candle lights are dying down across the house, some of them going out on their own, some of them have yet to been snuffed by the servants. It's a strange sort of thing, that dying light, the weird shadows that they create on the walls, against the windows, on the ceilings and floors, old ghosts, shapes that almost look familiar. And when once this house was full of people and full of life and potential and future. It's a lot quieter now. It's a quiet night. And the servants accept your help wordlessly and just a small smile. Every once in a while, they both kind of look to you, just sort of checking in with their eyes to make sure you're doing okay. They were privy to the moment at dinner. They just go quietly about their chores, though, beside you.
What are their names? Because I will at least have gotten that by now.
Yeah. So let's see. I have Mina and Heron.
I think because I'm feeling a little bit nostalgic, I'm pestering them a touch as they clean up and trying to be helpful so I'm not disrupting them, but I'm pestering them for stories a bit.
The younger of the two, a young elven woman, kind of looks a bit put off by the pestering. The older woman, an old human female who's worked at the house for a long time, she's Mina. Heron's the younger. Mina just kind of, as she's going about washing dishes and cleaning up, looks over to you as you're pestering for stories, and she says, finally, all right, dear. What sort of story would you like to hear tonight?
Oh, I want to know what it was like when the whole family was going to the gala. What was it like here?
Oh, well, if you ask me, it was a lot of work. Even when I was younger, the gala was so much work, and of course, there's all the pressure on the heads of the house, because one small thing goes wrong, and that's all anyone is talking about for 10 years. Can you imagine? 10 years. But we would always host a great party here, of course. We would have all of everything, of course, loaf and cake, and well, we would get plenty of wine from the other houses. And there was music, not the normal bards for the house, but we would find outsiders from other city-states, those who could play us music that we'd never heard before. When I was younger, I was in charge of the parties, and I got to do the decorations and see that the masters and the ladies were well taken care of, that everyone was having a good time. Now I mostly wait until it's over and clean up. Sometimes Lucius was in a fantastic mood. He would smile, he would dance when he was younger.
He would dance?
Oh, yes, yes. He was quite the dancer when he was a young man, and the ladies of the court did like him very much. Of course, uh, he was always a proper gentleman. Does that surprise you?
Merula blushes a little bit because they're a bastard. So he wasn't a gentleman at least once.
Well, the parties got less and less over the years, I suppose, but this year we'll have none. Just, it's hard, I think. Father, he has lost a lot, and so have you, and I must admit, even though I'm not lucky enough to be a member of your house, not truly, I came to care for many of its children over the years.
You think we'll ever have parties here again?
Oh, I hope so. I suppose that's on your shoulders. I can't say that I envy you, but I think you'll do quite well for the house.
That's very kind of you to say, Mina. Tell me more about my father when he was younger and he was dancing.
Oh, all right. Well, just don't let him know I told you.
Never. No, I swear. Just, did he ever get into
Okay.
trouble?
Oh, yes, 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 especially when he was just barely a man. I thought he was a swordsman, he did. Several duels with other local patricians. He never won, but thankfully, the other locals, they let him live. He was always much better off by using his brains and his wits than his sword. But he fancied himself an adventurer when I wasn't that much older than you. I'm still somewhat new to the house.
Did
Used
he
to
go on
take shit.
adventures?
Oh, well, sometimes, yes. At least that's what he called them. He always had great stories about what he found on the Silt Sea, some island or another, some giant he slew, or, well, it's all. I can't imagine it was true, but I always pretended like it was. I think it made him feel more welcome here. When he was a young lord, there was a lot of pressure on him to uphold the family honor and make sure that the legacy would go on. Some said that he failed the house and its decline is his fault. I think he just never had the same support, perhaps, that the previous leaders had.
Why do you think it happened, Mina? All of this.
And she looks aside to Heron, shoos her out of the way, just with a hand in a shoe. And Heron kind of scoffs and puts down a plate, steps out of the kitchen. Mina sits down on a stool and takes a rag and kind of wipes some sweat from her forehead and down the side of her face and looks up at you. Says, "Oh dear. I don't know who's doing this to the family, but whoever it is, They're not going to stop, or they would have stopped already. And it's one too many accidents, if you ask me. Never seen such a thing in all my time. I worry about the Lord. I worry about you too, Merula.
I don't want him to die. I don't want to die.
Oh, we all go eventually, but you should have many, many good years left.
With parties.
If you want, you can always hire me. I have some family members, some granddaughters that I could bring in maybe in 10 years. Don't answer now. Think on it.
I have a bit of time.
Yes, you do.
Thank you, Mina.
She flaps her rag towards the pile of dishes that are drying. She says, "Oh, thank you. You saved me at least a good deal of time tonight, and I could use the rest."
Go rest. There's not very much left here.
Well, if you say so. Just our little secret, though.
Well, I'm the scion of House Akacia, so if I have to order it, I will.
I won't make you do that. But if anyone asks me, you did. She kind of gives you a smile and slowly rises up from her stool and places that rag down. And she looks at you for a moment, her lips kind of tightening into a thin line, and then she just kind of opens her arms. And wraps them around you and pats you on the shoulder. There, Merula. It's going to be all right, and we're all in it together after all.
I'm going to fix it. I'm going to find out what's happening, and I'm going to stop it, and nothing's going to happen to Father. I promise.
Yes, of course.
Sorry.
Well, you take good care of yourself and make sure you get some sleep too. I can tell. It's been a day for everyone. It has.
It's been a day. I think tomorrow will be an even bigger one.
I try not to think about tomorrow just yet. And she works her way out of the kitchen and stops and just gives you a little bit of a wave and a wink and then pushes out. You can hear her stomping through the halls outside towards the door where she would move out into the servants' quarters, which is a side building from the main house.
I finished the washing up, and it's sort of like when you're young and it's right before the first day of school, only it's not the excited first day of school, it's the nervous first day of school. So I can't really sleep. I'm just going to sit in the sill of my window and look up at the moons.
You are in your bedroom now. You retire to look.
Once I finish
through the
washing
window.
up, I'm just going to go back up there and probably call my bird back to me. It's about time.
And it's just a few moments later. Couldn't have been far. No, it was still at Rysar's, correct? It's been there the entire night. So you wait, but not too long. And then the flutter of the wings and the scratching, the little tapping at your window. And then it stops the windowsill and just kind of perches outside.
I open the window and I let them in. Hi, Corey. I have some scraps for you. Don't ask where they're from. I
Chirps.
give some scraps of meat because COVID, carnivorous. So.
It takes the scraps and chirps and comes inside of the window. And then as you look back down to the windowsill and the window itself, now that you're right in front of it, you see two things. Etched into the silt that kind of covers the outside of the window from the sandstorms outside is the symbol of a heart. And laying on your windowsill, wrapped in a piece of dirty fabric, looks like maybe it was part of a dirty tunic, is a small amulet. It's on a simple cord, but the actual amulet is a diamond crafted out of obsidian with some sort of gemstone inlaid in a smaller diamond towards its center. It's a light object, but it doesn't look like a cheap object.
Anything with diamonds isn't. Who could have possibly? Who would have? You must have a secret admirer, Corey. It's the only solution. I sort of hold the necklace up as if measuring it for them.
It chirps and kind of bounces up and down on its little feet a little bit. Roll me, it's called an Arcana check.
Mm-hmm. 8.
It's a mystery that for as long as Merula wanders on it, at least tonight, they just can't be sure. But they do get the sense that there is some sort of magic, not unlike their own magic, held within the amulet, that it's not just a piece of decorative jewelry, that it has function of some kind. And when that realization strikes you, the moons kind of dip just enough that the red and the gold light from the two moons of Athas crisscross and blend together as they come down through your window. But that's where, oh, no, go ahead.
I take it and I'm going to wrap it right by my notebook spell bracelet.
That's where we'll wrap up tonight. That's where we'll end things for tonight. Yay.
Thank you, Don.
Yeah, well.
Corey got a necklace.
Yay.
Yeah.
Where's my magic item delivery?
Right.
No, you
You have fewer admirers.
That's true. Those are
You
downstairs.
get your gifts mostly in undead creatures that are
Right.
stuffed out into your
Yeah,
basement.
quiet you and your salt mummy.
What?
Salt mummies.
Oh, what?
Oh man.
Oh yeah, he's
thank you,
salty about
everybody.
it.
Right.
Oh no.
The other one's a pepper mummy.
Could do with a little seasoning.
Oh no. But like
This
green
is how it
peppers and
ends.
like vegetable peppers, not like not black pepper.
Oh, wow. So thank you everyone for hanging out tonight. I love tonight's episode. Just this sort of impromptu, let's see what everybody gets up to, all on their own. I loved it. Had so much fun. I feel like we got to see a lot about the characters, which is always nice. So, we have these like action heavy episodes. We can step back a bit and get to see the context and what's going on
Breathe
inside a little bit. Yeah, I love it. So I thought tonight was great. I enjoyed it so much. Really looking forward to getting Christina back and then moving forward, bringing everybody back together once again, and the chaos that always ensues when the four of you are actually in the same place at the same time.
Smooth and uneventful.
Yeah,
That's
nothing
right.
will happen at the gala.
Perfectly normal. But I loved tonight's episode. You were all great. Everybody in chat, thank you for being so supportive and hanging out all night. Just want to give a quick shout out to our moderators who keep our chat safe, make sure that everybody's having a good time, engaged with the show. They do incredible work. So thank you so much, moderators. Thank you to our sponsors. Once again, our sponsors are the ones who keep us going. They're the reasons why we can have a show. So if you like what you're watching, you want to support us, please check out the links in the VOD. If you're watching on YouTube, they're in the description. If you're watching right now live, they're in the description of our Twitch channel. If you just scroll down, click on those links, check out our sponsors, buy some pretty dice, buy some awesome things, and you'll be supporting our show at the same time. So thank you for that. Other than that, we'll be back next week with a big episode, and I cannot wait. But I just want to say one more time for anybody that's not joined our Discord, if you're on Twitter, come connect with us on social media, on Discord, Twitter, everywhere. Let us know what you're thinking about the show. Leave us comments. That means a lot to us. I know that for all of the cast and everybody who works on this show, those comments mean a lot. You sharing us with other people means a lot. So if you like what we're doing, tell a friend that you think might like it too. That helps us. But that's all. I just want to go around and kind of decompress, let everybody say their good nights. If you're up to anything cool you want us to know about this week, please let us know where we can find you, and any other random thoughts you want to share. So let's go ahead and start with Toby. Hey, Toby. Surprise.
Hello, I'm Toby. Toby is I. I love Kronqual. I love everyone. That was great fun. Yeah, I was just sort of like watching my my Rysar's political aspirations go down the toilet when the High Praetor for public for safety was like, you'll look after security, won't you? I'll give you 2 half giants. I was like, what, seriously? I mean, even if it was just a cashier, that wouldn't be enough. Like, plus Merula, Kronqual will be fine. I'll probably hire you, Kronqual, to be part of the security detail.
I will protect.
Yes, Kronqual will protect. But yeah, no, I had a great time. I love like action episodes and scenes and stuff, but actually I also love sort of delving into the character, and I really
So
like
you're an
sort
actor.
yeah, believe it or not, yeah. Yeah. But I just act like I'm a bad actor. But no, I love it. And even just like sort of finding that right at the beginning of the episode, the sort of frustration, and they're like, oh, party went bad, but no, all right, take control. And yeah, sort of finding those interesting spaces in the city, like the High Praetor's office. Yeah, I feel at home here. It's good. It's ordered. Especially after the chaos of the dinner party went mad. So yeah, I really enjoyed the episode. So thank you, Jonathan. Thanks everyone for playing. And yeah, love to Christina as well, and love to all the fans, the people in the chat room. Thank you so much. I've been watching the chat tonight, which I don't usually get a chance to, so it's really nice watching everyone being supportive. Thank you. Oh yeah, find me on social.
And do you have any other games coming up this week? Anything you want to shout out?
Yes. I think I'm doing this John Carter of Mars stream, but I don't know. I think it's next week. I'm terrible at self-promotion. I'm sorry. Find Adventurers Wanted on social media, and they'll have intelligent suggestions as to how to watch us.
Yeah, and you're playing John Carter of Mars, which is an awesome system for anyone who likes, like, this is kind of a pulp adventure world that we're playing in, and John Carter Mars is like pulp adventure on Mars. It's very cool, very like retro style sci-fi, but the system is awesome. So if you get a chance to check out them playing, please do. It's very, very cool, and it's a good group too. And Toby, always, I enjoy seeing what Rysar is going to do, what his plays are going to be. I appreciate how malleable he is, right? Because he's got to be, right? Because like any single person that he runs into could be the end of his career, possibly, you know, because like he's still kind of at the bottom of the totem pole to a certain extent, trying to work his way up. But it's his flexibility that I appreciate the most, his moral and political flexibility.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank
I
you for
think
that.
I was seeing some stuff from without getting too political. I was seeing some press releases from Trump this week, and I was just taking little tidbits.
Art only imitates life.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's really interesting. And also, we discussed when we were starting the campaign, you thought I wanted to play a high Praetor. And I was like, oh, no. I want to start at the bottom. That's much more interesting. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may stay at the bottom.
We'll see how it plays out. That'll be fun. That'll be really fun. I like the idea that, okay, well, if I'm going to get challenged, then I'm going to challenge somebody else who's even more powerful than me. It's smooth. It's really smooth. So yeah, I can't wait to see how that plays out next week. We'll definitely get more politics and whatnot. Let's go ahead and go over and say hi to Cord. Hey, Cord. First off, Cord, thanks for helping out with everything you did tonight. And with production and everything, Cord helped out a lot with production, running it in the background tonight. We put it together. I know we started a little bit late, but he got us through it because we were having some internet problems earlier. And then you played Kronqual, and Kronqual, great tonight, just amazing.
Thank you. Wow, thank you. My name's Cord, Mythomatic on twitch.tv/Mythomatic. I'm a role player and voice actor. I played Kronqual this evening. It was tons of fun. I love pouring myself into the shell of Kronqual for the evening and just seeing what happens. I didn't expect to get into the Cerebrin. I was like, well, he's probably going to go wander today, but he does think that was a test. So convinced as he was, I think we succeeded in getting into at least the Cerebrin and at least seeing what that was all about, which was super cool. Seeing the alien technologies and these foreign constructs that were puzzles and things, and just the cool visuals or mind visuals of both the inside of the Cerebrin, as well as taking a look inside of a Scion's Nexus for a bit. So that was really awesome. Thank you, Don, for taking us on that journey and taking me along there with you. You can find me on twitter.com/Mythomatic. Also Twitch, like I said, of the same name. I'm everywhere as Mythomatic. Call me Cord or Myth. It's up to you. I can't wait for next week. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody in the chat for being so supportive and being here and supporting the channel and supporting the cast. Thank you very much, everybody.
Awesome, thank you. And I thought about not letting us in today, and like they can come back later, but I don't know. It just felt right, and I'm glad that you kept pushing it. Right, Kronqual's specific way of being stubborn in a way that he doesn't even know he's being stubborn. Really. It was perfect. So I'm really glad we got to explore that little area of town because we have all these little things that we can check out. But I don't know, that might be one of my favorites because just the idea of this crazy psionic.
Scary. It's a scary,
right? Yeah,
like
it's a scary place.
Thing. But
yeah.
to Kronqual, it's just, oh, this is where I go to train, I think. So it's it was fun. It was like, to everybody that from the episodes prior and stuff. It's like it's a very dark, negative thing, but to Kronqual, he thinks it was just a test. So it was fun to do.
Yeah, I loved it. I hope we get to go back there. I'm very excited for all that. The psionics are one of my favorite things to explore about Darksun. Yeah,
it's my sponsor.
That's right. You totally threw him under the bus.
Yeah,
oh man, he was getting thrown under the bus all over
Come
the place.
With me. Yeah, right. It's all right. He's with me.
He'll pay for me. He's the one who put me here. Yeah. Amazing. All right. Well, let's go ahead and. Oh, do you have any shows coming up that you want to shout out, Cord?
Tomorrow I'll be on. Oh, I just unplugged my headphones. Hold on.
You'll know.
All right. Tomorrow I'll be over on Table Stories Gone. It's a surreal thriller. So if you're interested in the Nibiru system, which is a new system, it's 3D4, get a 4, and that's a success, which is super simple, which is great, which means it's so cool for role playing. Check us out over there, Table Story, on Twitch and Twitter. And then I'll be here again next week. I'll be streaming as well on Thursday on my channel. Stop on by, say hello. But thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Awesome. And definitely check out Gone. It is very cool. It is very unique, very intense, and it's definitely worth a watch. Yeah, I think it's really cool. I love people taking chances and trying new things. We're streaming TTRPGs. That's a new thing, right? Like let's take chances and try some stuff. So I think Gone is really cool. So definitely check that out, everybody. And let's go on up to Sam. Hi, Sam. And thank you very much for some amazing role play tonight and being vulnerable too. That's not always an easy thing to do. And I thought it was honest and truthful. It was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. It turns out that actually being a rogue and being very good at doing the stabity, like, maybe impacts your emotions a bit. And it's fun in this game where these characters are treated with some level of realism that we get to examine a little bit of how they feel about the kinds of things that in a normal Dungeons and Dragons game we might take for granted or just gloss over. And it was great to have this episode so we had the time for that, because normally I would just rush right into the next adventure, and it was so lovely to have this moment of payoff and set up for future things. It was a really fun character-driven session. I enjoyed the heck out of just, I'm going to interact with a person, and then another person, and then another person, and that's my night. It was great. And, you know, I have a secret admirer, which is, in Dark Sun, kind of concerning. Like, yay? Uh-oh? I don't know.
Terrifying,
Yes.
actually,
The
yeah.
answer to that is yes. So, yeah. When I am not doing this absolutely awesome game, you can also find me doing other role-playing streams on Thursday on D&D's official Twitch channel from 5 to 7 p.m. PDT for A Darkened Wish, the streaming tie-in to the canon comic from IDW, written by B. Dave Walters and drawn by Tess Fowler. We are in the Underdark. It's fine. It's fine. We definitely, as a group, planned for this. Though, I'm just saying, if you tell the players there is a yawning portal, they're gonna want to jump in it. And that's been going very well, as you might expect. And I also have Friday Fly Day because it looks so darn fun when Cord goes to space. I thought I should too. I'm not in Star Citizen, but I am playing No Man's Sky with role-playing designer Jason Mills, who wrote the Demigods Powered by the Apocalypse hack. And so we are exploring space and having a great time. That's on usually Fridays at 10 a.m. PDT, this week at 4 p.m. PDT. And if you want even more space, you can, I go to space a lot. You can find me on Q Times, QUEUE Times Twitch channel on Mondays from 6:30 to 9:30 PDT for Clear Skies, the Star Trek Adventures game I play with the Streampunks and Captain in a Starship. It's a good time. And those are about the places that you can find me.
Yay, awesome. And I want to say too, that of all of the things, all of the conversations you could have had, I love that the last one was this conversation with the old servant just wanting to hear some stories. I thought that was great. And I'm very interested to see. I didn't think it was going to be a big thing, and this is kind of how it always is in D&D games, in my experience at least. Which characters, which NPCs you care about, the players care about and hook into, and which ones they don't. Like sometimes you can guess, but usually you can't. Usually it's like it's this old guy who had a weird hat that was just wandering down the street and ends up becoming a bigger character than you think they're going to be. So I think now we're starting to see some relationships develop with some of the NPCs, which is super cool. And I just thank you all for throwing yourselves into it 100%. please, once again, check out all these people. They're amazing. Please check out Christina, who couldn't be here today because of personal reasons. All of our love to her. We will see her again soon, and I can't wait to find out what's going on with Akasha, because Akasha is about to make some big moves in Dark Sun, and they've got a lot of power behind them to do that. So we'll catch up with Christina in our next session and kind of get her up to where everybody else is, and then we'll move on together. In the meantime, take care of yourselves, everybody. Take care of your family, the people in your lives who are close to you. Wash your hands. Be good to everybody, people in your life. Make sure you get enough rest, too. And we will see you next week, same time. Good night.